feed Scooter supper goes off right as I go live. He's already eaten. He's good. Okay, so we're here to talk about Halloween Kills. And I have a lot of words, but I have a feeling all of us do. So I invited Dee to come on with me before the movie even came out. I was super excited. I could feel like you were really excited too. I was just like so, just worried, but I was excited. And so I was like, you know what? Let's do a live stream discussion about it after. And then also Derek and I were talking, and he was really wanting to talk about it too. So I'm like, let's just all get together and talk about it. So to start off, I've done my review of this movie, but you haven't done yours yet. You're working on it. It's not up yet. So let's just kind of let us know what you think about Kills.
Ooh,
I know.
Well, where would be the best place to start?
Whatever you like, your overall feeling about it. Okay. Like if you want to just kind of sum it up. I summed it up in about a sentence or two right after I'd seen it, just like to put it on Twitter or whatever. But whatever you want to do.
Okay. If I'm just going to be straightforward, I thought it was kind of a mess. And it just was a very kind of bizarre film because there are a lot of issues for me as far as the tone and the vibe from it, especially after seeing 2018. And I know it's hard to say because I know that with the horror genre and even with Halloween films, there are certain things that you expect. But I feel like those elements, I think Derek might have just said it earlier, but I feel like there are elements here that have been done better in previous films.
Yeah.
And just there are a lot of things where the tone was off. It felt comical when it wasn't supposed to be comical.
Right.
A lot of acting and writing and things like that that I know how to kind of step back from and not like I don't nitpick and I'm not overly critical of those things, but just a lot of things that I was expecting to enjoy more kind of having like, ooh, okay, what's going on here? So yeah, it just was kind of a bizarre film and not really what I was expecting, even though there were good moments in it.
Exactly. That's pretty much how I feel. I think something I put up on Twitter was like, well, it's not as good. I enjoyed it. It's not as good as 2018. But it's a mixed bag for me. Right. So I think we kind of feel. I mean, you may dislike it more than me. I have a feeling that Derek probably dislikes it more than me. I mean, there were. I rewatched it, like I said, and I came away. You know how sometimes you rewatch something, you're a little harsh initially, and you rewatch and you feel a little better about it. Right. This time it was the reverse. I rewatched it and I felt a little bit worse about it. I was like, no, I wasn't expecting that. And there were specific moments too. I remember the moments where I'm like, oh man, this bothers me more than it did initially. And part of that was the comedic stuff you were talking about with Big John and Little John when they each pulled out their knives. Initially, I thought it was funny, and a lot of people in the theater laughed. But then when I was watching it last night, I'm like, yeah, this feels really out of place. It's Michael freaking Meyers. Why are we laughing right now? Even though I did laugh when the girl accidentally got shot in the head, like when he kicked the thing.
Oh yeah,
that was funny. Almost everybody laughed.
How'd she spin that gun full on with a recoil shot? You know what I mean? You're just like, oh wow, that was a feat. And did her finger go with it? Because it's like
so many times. It's like, oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, and I was thinking right in that scene, you bring it up when she felt, because remember she was for whatever those four klutz. Well, not Lindley Wallace. I give her credit, but of the three that were in that little SUV, they could. It was like watching the Three Stooges with those guys, man. Like they were just like dropping the gun. And they couldn't get. It was mind-boggling to watch.
And then, of course, the gun's empty, when the
nurse she fell out. The nurse lady fell out, or the fake nurse, not Marion Chambers, the Halloween costume nurse, the one with the gun. Yeah. She fell out of she got out, right, after she couldn't figure out how to use the door handle. She got out, and all of a sudden, she falls on the ground, and then all of a sudden, Michael's rampaging the car, and then when she comes, like, out of nowhere, she's charging from, 10 feet away. It's like, where did you go?
Right out of the car. I feel like there's some stuff that was just maybe certain cuts were made that maybe maybe initially, I'm just completely guessing.
Maybe she left the bullets across the street. I don't freaking know. But, you know.
Or maybe she snatched the gun up and her instinct was like to run it first and then she stopped. I mean, I have no clue. I don't know. I didn't know.
Well, yeah, she was kind of bratty, so maybe she was like, save yourself kind of selfish woman, you know, but nah.
That was funny though when she was asking her husband to go, you go check. And he's like, oh, I'm not going. Like when they thought it was Michael in the initial, you know, the initial time. So okay, Derek, kind of give us your summary too, and then we'll jump in before we crucify this movie too much. We'll jump into the pros because I do have some pros.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, to be honest, I thought you were summing up really good. The Movieman. I felt I get such mixed. I'm getting these. You know what I mean? I'm like, is it good? Is it bad? How hard do I want to be on this? Because at the end of the day, I still enjoyed watching it. I can't deny that. Like I was entertained.
Yeah.
And I thought there were good parts to the movie that I liked, but as a whole, I was just kind of like, all these things were nagging the crap out of me, and especially since 2018's, I thought just came out of nowhere and really delivered. I thought it was solid, and to just have them step down so far, and I thought the film was kind of cluttered. I was telling Sin about this, that I didn't think, even though they kind of like put on that, they let on that they knew where this story was going, this trilogy, they had it mapped out, they knew where they were going, and I really get the sense after, you know, reading the novel and doing all, you know, all this background stuff, seeing where Halloween Kills went, it just doesn't feel like they really had a concrete plan. It feels like a lot of this was shot from the hip. They just kind of had an idea and went with it. And I don't know if the whole mob mentality with, you know, them trying to push that on came out of, you know, today's, what Jamie Lee Curtis was saying, the political climate was kind of forced upon the story.
2 years ago. They filmed all that 2 years ago, before all the stuff of 2020. So for her to say that really didn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, I get the narrative. I understand it because mob mentality is dangerous. I mean, and we've had a lot of that stuff happening. And so that particular part was very sobering to me, and kind of, I felt just like so awful watching, because you know it's going to go nowhere good. Rewatching it, it felt more clunky and didn't quite have the same impact, because some people were just, I started to pay attention to the people in the crowd, and they were just acting freaking goofy, like making these funny little funny faces and making these weird noises, like, ooh, like it's like, what the heck? What's going on?
Yeah, that
thing. Like in my review, I'm gonna there's a specific reference, a specific movie that piece reminded me of, and just felt like, I understand mob mentality is about a lack of rationale and a lack of intelligence, and all that going out the window, just pure emotion. But even with that piece, it just felt like people were just like flying into each other and like running through walls and just like
knocking stuff over, you know, falling down, and it's just like, what the heck? And this, I don't know. Okay. All right. Before we kill it, we're just murdering this movie. Let's talk about the good things, because there are some good things. Honestly, you guys, this started off really good for me. It started to go a little wobbly when Michael came out and massacred like 8+ firefighters all at once.
Right.
They all just stood there and let him kill them one by one, pretty much. Like when he comes out of the house, that was a cool scene, actually, and I really appreciated how they explained him surviving the fire.
That was plausible.
Yes, it was, because I was like, okay, how are they going to, you know, write this one? And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that. I get it. I'm behind it. And then he comes out, and the thing happens with the firefighters. He walks out, one of the firefighters starts revving up his saw, and then he kills like 1 or 2 other guys. And then the guy revs up his saw again, and then he charges at him. So when that happened, I'm like, okay, this is taking me out of it. I don't like this. Michael Myers does not kill people en masse. He just doesn't do that. It's like 1 or 2 maybe at a time.
He's not so brazen. He doesn't take on mobs. He never took on forces, even though you know, he's always hypothetically unstoppable, whatever, you know, depends on how far down the series you get. Yeah. But he always, he knew how to retreat from harm. He kind of like, in a sense, you got a sense he knew a limitation. He wouldn't take on a whole mob force. He wouldn't do that. He still, obviously, every time someone tried to hurt him, he would have an awareness and I can be harmed, I could be incapacitated, whatever. You could see that there was an awareness. And in this movie, it's like right off the bat, they kick it off to where he's basically, like I was calling him Michael Voorhees, you know, it's like he just would just rip people heads right off. And you're like, because you look at some of the firefighters in the aftermath and you're just like, Jason, did Jason or Michael do this? I don't know what happened here, you know? And
so that was the first signal. That was the first sign to me. Oh, okay. But you know, I was willing to let it go. I was like, okay, I can. All right. But then as it progressed, maybe about 30 some minutes in, I was like, oh, I don't know. And then when we got to the end, I thought it was going to end with the townspeople surrounding him. I'm like, this will be actually a perfect ending, because how are you going to write him out of this? And then it continued. And I'm like, oh, no. So, but there were pros. I liked how it got started. I don't know if we all want to just talk about our different pros, because I have a list of pros. There's different things I did enjoy about it and still do. So it doesn't put it at the bottom of the list for me. But it's just such a huge disappointment because, you know, it's hard to believe this is done by the same crew that worked on 2018.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a totally different director.
And I figured something had to have changed from one to the other. And that's the thing with franchise films. Like a lot of times, or like you even look at Star Wars and how the sequel trilogy, some of that was because we didn't just stick. One, not sticking with the same director, but then throwing in somebody who was just like, hey, I'm just going to throw this vision out the window. Yeah. And so my assumption was that something somewhere, same thing with Fast and Furious, but my assumption was something somewhere changed, but I didn't realize that it like literally was the same exact crew, which is kind of
Yeah, it was, because he was going to do the whole trilogy. I mean, it was already known that was going to happen. If 2018 did well, they were going to do kills and ends. And it was my understanding they were going to film them back to back, and then they didn't. So I don't know why they didn't, but they're supposed to start filming in 2022. So, okay. So
usually I'd say not filming back to back is a good thing, because usually the first one in the back to back is really solid. And then you see they've run out of ideas. They're running out of steam by the third one. But this one, I don't know. I don't think we had much to lose here, since it seemed like Kills was just kind of like, what we sorry, alas, we're talking good things. I apologize.
It's hard to refrain, right? Okay, good things. Let's start off on a happy note. Happy note. Okay, so Derek, what are some good things for you?
Anne Murray.
Wait, remind me of who's that character? Who's that?
Oh no, Anne Murray. Could I have this dance for the rest of my life? The song that Big and Little John are listening to on the record.
Oh, come on.
From Urban Cowboy. Come on, Anne Murray. It's like, am I the only one that got that? Oh, okay.
I didn't know the artist, but I recognized that song. I didn't. So when you pulled that name out, I was like, who was that?
Okay, Anne Murray, beautiful voice, Canadian woman. No, the movie. Let's talk with some pros. I did like the returning characters. I was really excited when they announced that, and especially, and I know you weren't a big fan, but I liked Kyle Richards, little Lindsay Wallace. I liked that I thought she actually did pretty good, because you haven't seen her do much of anything as an adult actress, except for like the Housewives thing or whatever.
I didn't even know she was on that. I did because I never followed her. I mean, I was glad to see her. I just didn't feel like she was the greatest. But then Anthony Michael Hall is a seasoned actor, and I thought he did not so great in this movie.
Yeah, I wanted to expect more from him, and he just seemed to tread water. You know, like he was just kind of
over the top, though, too.
Yeah, but I did like her. I liked Lindsay Wallace, so I was happy about that. I liked Nancy Stevens. No. But I liked her for all 2 lines she had, and then they just killed her or whatever. You know, to me, it was like, what a waste. Why do you bring him back, these people? Lee Brackett, I wanted to see him, but, you know, he didn't look like he was doing in too good a health there. So,
no.
That was kind of
Evil
disappointing.
Dies Tonight was so cringy.
Like, and the way he smirked at the end, and they like with the gun. I'm like, you are a sheriff. You've been one for God knows how long, and you sat there and just kind of had to say your one-liner while you're still 15 freaking feet away from it.
Entitled to a good
and that's when you blow his head off. You do.
Right? Don't talk. Just shoot him in the face.
That's
right. Exactly. Exactly. So, so those were both, it's like that was the best thing about Halloween Kills and the worst thing, because I was really happy they got all these people back. And then just to throw 3 out of 4, to throw 2 of them away with just basically no lines of dialogue, they really contributed nothing to the story. I mean, other than being essentially a 2-line Easter egg, Yeah. It felt like a waste. I'd rather just, if you're not going to use them like significantly or dignified, just don't even put them in the movie. Let the memory of them having survived Michael, just let them have that. Let them go off in the sunset. Right. I'm happy as a fan that they're still alive. But when you give them these kind of stupid, humiliating deaths to top it off, I feel kind of insulted a little bit. I'm kind of like, no, you don't tarnish that legacy from me, man. This is my happy memory, and you just acted like it was nothing. I'm a little offended. I'm sorry. No,
I completely get it. I do. And see, look, here we go. We're falling into this pattern. We're trying to talk about good things, and then we're like, but I know. Okay, so what about you, Dee? What sort of stuff did you like? I have several things that I liked.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say with Derek, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but I'm just saying with the whole humiliating death thing, that reminds me of The Rage, Carrie 2, and what they did with Susan L. And it's like the whole point is that she happens to be the sole survivor of this horrible tragedy that she thought she was going to be able to stop. And then at the end, she is haunted by the memory of Carrie and this horrible thing that has happened. And then when they bring her back in the second, you think that there's going to be some significance, which initially there is, but then they do this really ridiculously messed up death at the end. It's just like, she could have just stayed where she was. So I agree with that piece. That's what I'm reminding me of.
Sorry, and I agree with you on the Carrie too. I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, Amy Irving's back. Oh yeah, I was like a teen and I was excited. And then all of a sudden,
I never saw that movie.
And she's a human door hanger. It's like, what an insult. It was like, no, we're on the same page with it. Good. It's not just me. So
yes. I was gonna say, just to start off, I did like the opening title sequence, kind of the evolution of the pumpkin, so to speak, and the flames, and the way they did the theme music and everything. That actually really worked for me. I thought it was very visually striking. I enjoyed that. I like the fact that we got Haddonfield 1978. I wasn't expecting like a flashback sequence, because even the trailer that I saw in the reaction, it doesn't show any of that.
Okay.
And so, and even just the way that they did it, because the style of it felt very much like we had stepped into the original movie, which was surprising.
Yeah.
And just the entire vibe of that, and kind of starting off and then jumping back into the present, I actually thought that was really well done. I thought that, of course, bringing back the people, that was a solid idea, even if there were some problems with that. I also thought that Jamie Lee Curtis, and I had his name and then I forgot, but Jamie Lee Curtis, and then the character who she's in the hospital bed with the sheriff.
Will Patton, I think is his name.
Patton, yes.
I was very happy to see that he lived, you guys, because I really liked him in 2018. So when I was like, oh, yay, he's alive.
Yeah. But that's part of the thing. Sorry. Finish with Hawkins, and then I'll get to that later. Go ahead, Officer Hawkins. Sorry.
Okay, no, you're fine. I was gonna say I liked that moment between his character and Laurie's, where they're sitting in the bed and they kind of have that brief kind of conversation. And to me, like, moments like that feel very genuine, and I feel like with all of this horrific dialogue that we get, it just felt like a more genuine, kind of honest moment. And I wish we had had more moments like that between the characters.
Yeah,
we don't have to directly reference. I don't know, like, it doesn't have to be like on the nose, but it can just be like, what has this experience been like, or do you remember what it was like, or it can just be something where you understand that there's been a bond with these characters, surviving all of these things. And I thought that was really solid also.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point to make about the honest interactions, because I thought that 2018, when I first saw it, what I thought was one of the strong points was I felt that Laurie, with her being so damaged, even though they did exaggerate to 40 years or whatever, but just like the scene where she was struggling to watch, like when thinking about shooting Michael when he was being transferred, and then when she was just like a total mess, and she could like almost just fell apart at that dinner after trying to fake her.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like if you have ever seen that happen to someone in real life where they just basically kind of like are really happy and where they're putting on that facade and just like one thing just makes them crumble. And it felt very real to me. And I loved that. Like I was
such
like,
a good job
yes.
in those scenes. But in this one, honestly, I feel like she missed the mark on this one. And Kills.
She was like she was a supporting character, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, she was.
She felt relegated to me like she did in the first Halloween 2, where she basically was just kind of an afterthought. She kind of hung around in the background and she was some filler between scenes. But I mean, aside the finale of part 2, if she hadn't been in the movie, you really wouldn't have been missing much of anything. And
right, there was no confrontation with her and Michael. So I don't know. It just didn't feel authentic like it did in 2018. And I found myself feeling very nostalgic for the 2018 version, kind of sad, you know, by the time Kills was over. I'm like, okay, well, that was fun, but, you know, but you guys, I loved Loomis. I loved what they did with Loomis. I thought that was so cool.
And it looked very close like him. Like it looked like him to me, you know, and I know they can change things, but when you see the makeup they did with the guy and you're kind of like, oh, this guy's kind of his doppelganger, you know?
I thought they'd done digital trickery.
I thought that too.
On an actor, but it was actually prosthetics. And his voice, I don't know if they did any digital trickery with his voice, but it sounded a lot like Donald Pleasance. So I really like those little tiny touches and the whole thing about what happened with Hawkins and his. It's so funny because Jim Cummings, I just recently watched a movie that he was in. I love this guy. I watched The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Have you guys seen that movie yet?
Oh, no, I haven't.
I did a reaction to it. It's still in copyright HE double hockey sticks, but it's got like, if the appeal goes through, it'll be able to go live in about a week or so. But that was my first introduction to this guy. And so he shows up playing a sheriff again, because he was a sheriff in The Wolf of Snow Hollow. He's so hilarious in there. And so it's like, he seems to play the same type of character in both movies. So I liked how that was done. It was terrible that the guy that he got, I hated how he died. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awful. Some people crucified that. They thought it was terrible, but I could see something like that happening. You know, he's trying to kill Michael and he accidentally shoots his partner. You would say, why would you even try? But I guess he was panicking, you know?
I didn't like that, to be honest.
You didn't like that?
I was not a fan of that. I mean, like, I like the idea. Again, I think they're focused too much on making nostalgia and tying it into the Meyers place and all, you know, that recreating that night, because they had the resources now that, hey, we can do this if we want to, where the first film was still pretty low budget. You know, 2018 was still comparatively smaller budgeted. And that movie made huge money, so they kind of had the reins to do whatever they want. And I think this is one of those things where they hadn't, because, you know, like I'd referenced earlier, I don't think Kills, they had where they went with it in this film with Kills was not the initial plan, especially when you read the original shooting script of the first film, where they clearly say the Meyers house is demolished and it doesn't exist anymore. And so here they decided well, we're just gonna change our mind on that one. And then Hawkins was originally dead, and that's why you see in that deleted scene of the first one where Cameron gets arrested.
Because you were saying, you were telling me about that he got arrested.
Now they kind of retcon that so that he's just wandering around and he finds Hawkins. And you see they kind of were shoehorning in all the, I didn't think they had solid ideas with it. I think they had short brainstorm sessions and just kind of went with it. But going back to why I didn't, sorry, I was kind of, see, this is what happens. You start rambling, you start ranting.
I know, and it's easy because it's just, this is like so much emotion about this movie.
I just felt like that would be a significant thing that you would have weight of happening. And it just felt like, of shooting the partner of Jim Cummings. And I just felt like it was just kind of, they had to add a kill in there and they couldn't have, you know, Michael apprehended like that. So they had, I was not a fan. It didn't feel organic to me. It felt like with my critical eye that they were just kind of, well, let's just get something in here. We got a cool cameo from this guy. No one will think he'll get killed. It'll be cool. And sure enough,
I had a feeling that he would get killed because he wasn't Hawkins. So I'm like, okay, this dude's going to be dead. Somehow he's going to die. I just assumed it would be Michael, but holy cow, Michael moved very fast in this movie. When he would jump out at them, it's like, whoa, that was startling. I wasn't expecting that. And then he would just like turn and walk away real fast through the other door or whatever. But I did like how when they arrested him, when he came out and they arrested him, I like that was kind of an homage to the ending of the intro of the original movie, you know, like Michael standing outside, and you know, like there were these little touches that they made that it actually it set well with me. I like that. There was also another thing when the people were getting attacked in the car, like the doctor lady and her husband, and then the nurse, Marion or Marilyn?
Marion Chambers.
Did you notice the similarities? Obviously, when he hit the glass.
Oh yeah,
of the window. I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that, but don't try too hard. Up the back, jumping onto the vehicle. So little things like that. I thought that was really cool. See characters from Jim Cummings. Attention to detail. Another thing, when they go in the house in the very beginning, there's the dead dog that Michael had eaten. I like that. I was like, okay, they're paying. Might be good. And then also the bullet hole when. There was a bullet hole in the window, and then that thing that had fallen, like in the first movie when Donald Pleasance got startled. The gutter, that was still hanging outside the window with the bullet hole. I was like, I like that. They know what they're doing. They have paid attention. And so I knew going into this film, I had accidentally seen the critic Rotten Tomato score, which, that doesn't necessarily matter, but I saw it. So I'm like, okay, the critics hate it. I think the fans will probably like it. But I just went in a little bit worried, and those things in the beginning made me feel better. But then as it progressed, you know, as we know, it just kind of fell apart.
Yes. I was going to say, speaking of the Easter eggs, that's literally the thing I was thinking of also. But I really liked what they did, the little shout out to Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, where
with the masks.
Yes, with the masks. Yes,
I didn't even. I was like, those masks look familiar, and I had just seen Halloween 3 the week
before. They were in 18 also.
I didn't even know that.
I think I missed it in that one.
I totally.
Well, I remember the first time I saw the trailer. You know, we were all like, "Oh my God, there's the skull mask, there's the pumpkin." You know, we were all there's the silver shamrocks, and
just went right over my head.
But even though. When he killed the 3 inept clowns in the SUV, you know, I have no love for them, and it's really frustrating because they were so inept. They should have had Michael dead to rights there, and they just if someone's on top of your car and you both got guns, that person's not getting out of this, right? And but unless they're Michael Myers and you're a moron. But no, when I liked how he strung them up, like he made decorations, like Halloween decorations of them in the playground, and put the masks on them. And I liked how he sprinkled the candy about. Like it was kind of cool again. That it's like, oh, he's being decorative again. He's getting into his playful side, and I did like that. And when he had killed the caretaker and her husband in the cemetery. Caretaker and her husband in the beginning or immediately after the firefighters, you know.
Oh, is that who that guy was? Because I didn't know who they were.
Not him. The woman with the short hair playing with the little drone. She's a caretaker from 2018.
Oh, she is. I didn't even recognize that she was a returning character.
Yeah, she's in it. But I did like seeing him the way he was like you almost pictured him like the way. Making art with the guy on the cutting board table where he kept grabbing a knife and sticking it, and then he was like
and then he
hunched
would look
over
at it like he'd study it,
and then think I'm going to put one here, and then it was like I thought that was a nice little touch. I like that. I thought it was cool because it made him think that there's actually a method to his he's actually almost curious in a way, maybe a kid playing around.
Well, like how they mentioned he was a 6-year-old in this man's body and. He's so
and it actually fit. It wasn't just a clever line of dialogue. It transferred. He was actually doing things like maybe a child might in a way. And so, anyways, I give it kudos for that.
The tilting of the head that he's always done kind of reminds you of a curious little puppy. You know, what?
What's going on here? Yeah, he's assessing. He's thinking, and that's cool because that's a little scarier than just being stoic and frozen. Because then you actually see that. Well, maybe there's a little traces of humanity of a living being actually there, not just. Blank evil, it's like actually he's processing things, and I like that. So yeah, that's one thing I did enjoy.
Yeah, I saw that with the whole knives and everything, and it kind of I was, of course, still just stuck on the brutality of what had happened right before with that light fixture.
With the light,
that was
It was like people liked the creativity that he had with these kills. After a while, they just kind of wear thin. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But I thought where he was stabbing, like, after I kind of came down off of that moment, it was like, oh, it could be something as simple as like, oh, so how does like kind of testing how these different knives work? Like, okay, how will this go into the body, and will this be the best? You know.
And he would turn, and then he would the way the actor does his he's like these weird he moves his body, and he doesn't just like swivel. He like would move at the waist to turn around and get this, and then the horror though of the woman sitting there and watching her husband watching this happen to her husband. It's like, oh, so terrible.
And he was kind of hunched over. It reminded me of like a mad scientist, you know, like out of a comic, you know what I mean? Like where he's kind of hunched over with his hands, like, you know, wiggling and, you know, just with glee. And here he is. I saw that I thought it was kind of cool. But
yeah.
In an otherwise very brutal part, that was pretty cruel where she had to sit there and watch while she was just bleeding out or whatever. And then he just
walked out. He just went on out and left her there, you know. So it's just for her to just die slowly and very painfully.
Right. Well, no, she'll probably come back for the next one. We didn't see her die, so
we didn't. Just like with Hawkins, I am glad that Hawkins lived, though. I mean, I really liked his character, and I hated that he got killed in 2018. But just like with Jamie Lee Curtis, he didn't have much of a role.
Nope.
Unfortunately, I guess they're setting us up. I heard they're doing a time jump for Ends.
I heard that too.
A time jump of about 4 years.
Yeah, I saw those articles last night, which that would have been perfect. Like, can we shift to the mob part at the ending? Can we talk about that for a second? I would like to, because, you know, I don't know. I was very disappointed in the way that went, that way that plot point went. But I was thinking in my head, like similar to where, like, alternate ways that they could have pulled this off, just, you know, me speculating, you know, that I would have accepted it as an audience and been actually kind of satisfied with, like, okay, I get that. That's cool. I'm okay with that. Similar to like the fireman one. I was thinking now, I wouldn't have a problem with the fireman being there, but I would have liked it if he would have, and then he could have killed the two when he escaped. But what if he like slipped out? You know what I mean? Because he was always good at stalking, and he always would disappear undetected. And that would have been okay. I would have accepted that, even if he maybe had yanked a lone fireman off and on the way out. I don't know. But the point where he got so brazen and just charged him really felt uncharacteristic to me. And the mob thing, especially with that. So going to the mob thing, I was thinking, well, what if the mob got him, like beat the holy crap out of him, and we accept that he might be 1.5 humans. He might be a little Superman, you know, whatever. But he takes a beating really bad. He gets broken legs, something like that. And say, you know, in Halloween 4, how the state got him again and had to rehabilitate him, you know, and nursed him, or something like that. Where, as opposed to what we saw, where he basically got shot, 5, 6, 7, however many times. Even a lady with a freaking iron was beating on him, you know, and well, I mean, and then he just gets up from it like, ha, tricked you.
Look, you forgot the pitchfork.
Oh, yeah.
The pitchfork, he was stabbed very deeply in the back with the knife where it could have gotten his heart. And then the beating with the bat, and then he shot multiple times. Now, he was shot multiple times in the first one, but, you know, you could sort of excuse that. You could be like, okay, well, maybe Loomis didn't hit him every time. The room was dark. Maybe every shot didn't land. So those injuries could be explained when he got poked in the neck with the thing. Okay, well, maybe it was a shallow wound. When he got poked with the coat hanger, it was just, maybe it just you know, startled him or whatever. Then she stabbed him with a knife. Maybe she didn't stab him very deep. So you can kind of explain. But the stuff he went through in this movie, and then he just bounced right back up. Oh, and then the mob. So he takes on the firefighters, and he's all, you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme practically being able to take them all down while they just stand there and wait to be massacred. But then when the mob attacks him, he's taking these wild swings and can't land a hit and can't do anything. And then he's down, and then all of a sudden he's back up again. It's just, and then why does Karen go back in the house up to the room? I mean, and then how does he manage to, he kills all these people, but yet he can slip past this big, huge crowd and get up in the room and
And I don't know if you know how strong your average fireman is, but these are not weak people. These are not, you know, frail. These are worthy people that you're probably not going to want to generally fight with, or if you can help it. So the fact that with him having just not only all the 2018 damage he took up to Laurie's home, but when he had just been shot in the face, just had a couple, 2-3 fingers blown off, and all of a sudden he's still able to pick the one guy and launch him like in the air, totally like he's just throwing him around on like dirt on a shovel. And I'm just kind of rolling my eyes at that point. I'm just like,
for a while in the gun cabinet. He'd been in there, so it's probably pretty hot.
Oh yeah.
It's just like,
well, I'm looking at the metal there, and I'm thinking, so he basically has put himself in an oven, and. So, anyways,
you don't know how long, whatever, that he had been in there. So,
and again, we all have to suspend some disbelief here, because we accept that this man can go through all this to a degree, but there's always different levels of, okay, I can understand. Maybe when the one dude popped him in the bathroom with the tire iron, even then I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit, because you don't walk that off. Even if you're Michael Myers, usually in the past he would follow, or he would be somewhat incapacitated to a degree. You know what I mean? He wouldn't just kind of smile and come at you again. That was always one thing that you understood about those franchises. But even if they couldn't particularly kill him, these guys were still able to get knocked down. And again, I say incapacitated, but they could be put out for a varying degree, that the characters would be able to flee or escape or do something. They generally didn't take it on the chin and just keep coming. You know what I mean? So when he was able to basically do that, I just can't point that enough how disappointing it was to me. That even like Supernatural, you talk Halloween 6, again, we're getting into the ones that are technically been retconned. I mean, he was admittedly, you knew he was pretty indestructible at that point, but even he took less of a beating. It would be, he'd get pushed down the stairs and he was out for a few minutes. You know what I mean? And here he takes a bag of bricks from Lindsay Wallace here twice.
right to the head.
And it was like she blew him a kiss. You know what I mean? It was like, come on, it's like, at least fall over, or be out for a few. I don't.
Have you guys heard that David Gordon Green? So he did clarify. So I've seen all this speculation. I've seen, well, maybe it's a super shamrock mask and it gives him power when he puts it on, because when he has the mask off, he can't do anything. Or maybe the cult of whatever that cult is, maybe they're going to bring that back. And I was hoping that none of that stuff would happen. Like these are just, musings that people have been making online. But David Gordon Green specifically said that he's human.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't know that by kills, right? But he said he's human, but that there's going to be a twist. So now some people have been speculating that the twist is going to be that Michael's going to somehow become immortal or invincible through this is going to be the twist. That's not a big, huge twist, y'all. That's the same dang thing that happened with the other movies.
They already did that, and they've done it many times. And depending on which Halloween you watch, it's just like he has a different reason for his immortality, or whatever you want to call it. And it's just, when that's what we were talking about, remember, Sin, we were kind of ranting about, or I was telling you about it, but when they had said, when Danny McBride and Gordon Green had said coming into this one about how they didn't like how Michael had basically turned into being unstoppable zombie Jason type, directly referencing like Rob Zombie ones in the later Halloweens, but they didn't like that he was this unstoppable hulking monster. And then I'm like, okay, cool. That was great about 18 is they dialed him back.
Right.
They made him human. They made him feel real world, and then here we get to kills. And that's right out the window. In the first scene with the firefighters, again, you're like, it's like, oh, so I see you guys went the other way on that really quick, and I still can't get over that. I'm still just bugged. So.
Yeah, and see, that was what, and I did enjoy 2018, but I remember going into it, I had some ambivalence about it, because I was thinking this can only end one of two ways. Either he dies and we just kind of bring this to a close, like, okay, this is, where the story, ends all these years later and we brought this to a close. But I was thinking like, okay, but if he's still alive, what is to stop us from going down this rabbit hole once again of him being, supernatural, unstumbled, this and that. And so that's why I was like, so when I saw the ending, I was like, and they made it ambiguous, because I was like, it could have been either way, like either he is dead or he's not. They made sure not to show him. Like once he's down there and the flames are everywhere, the whole basement will see him again. And so I was thinking, well, now that once I found out they were doing a second one, I'm like, well, clearly that's not the case. And then you know, with ends, and I kind of knew because knowing ahead of time that there is a I'm like, he's clearly not going to die in this one either.
Yeah. That's understood. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I think you forgot when you were listing all the things that happened to him here. I think you forgot the curb stomp that Karen did.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, but he did bleed a little, so that's something, you know. But he just got right back up like nothing happened to him. It was just.
My gosh, yeah. I remembered that, but I didn't specifically mention it because to me it seemed like for a horror movie, for something to be done to, you know, the bad guy in a horror movie, that seemed like such a minor thing. Like certainly that would be nothing for him. But all those other things, you know, it's like, really? Come on.
Well, and Allison stabbed him in the gut, like not just 90 seconds earlier, 3 times.
Yeah,
and he just kept taking it like it was nothing. Like he's like,
give me the knife.
He was like Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, telling Rocky just to hit him in the stomach. Keep hitting me; it doesn't do anything. You know, it's like, come on, man. I don't want him to be so self-aware that now that he knows he can't be hurt, so he doesn't worry about it. It takes away some of the fun, you know.
Yeah.
I always want to believe the characters have a chance, you know, as an audience, anyways. Yeah.
Right. Well, I felt pretty bad that Cameron ended up biting it. And that was pretty terrible and brutal, the way he died. Yeah.
And he was drooling and everything. That was pretty gross. And I thought Michael was going to leave him, and then he just decides, "Oh, I'm not done here." And
I'm going to go. Yeah, because he left the girl, the woman, to watch her husband die, but then he decides to go ahead and, I don't know, maybe Cameron irritated him for some reason. But it was but this was also what felt really stupid about Karen. Why did Karen go back in the house? She went up the steps past Cameron's dead body just so she could go stand in the sisters. Why?
Yeah.
That make no sense.
So they can tie it back into the beginning and say the reflection when you look out upon the field and you see inside yourself. I was like, okay.
But it felt forced, you know?
Yeah. It's like I was watching Candyman. Like she said Michael 5 times in the reflection of the glass. And
oh my gosh. No, but I mean, oh yeah. And then the morgue. The morgue being in full view of everybody going down what? Like on a main floor. Did you guys notice that the first time?
Yeah.
And the blinds were open for people to just see the dead bodies as they walked past the morgue.
Yeah, like the one woman who was like, "No,
my son, yes,
was dead." I was like, okay.
So when you checked into the hospital, they didn't know your son was dead until I'm looking for my son in case he checks in. Oh, he's actually in the morgue over there, but there's a nice little viewing room. You can go stand out there and watch with the rest of the mob.
Right.
He was a creeper anyways. You have another better kid. You know, it's like,
oh my goodness. Now I'm really worried about ends. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but.
The evil dies tonight. They wanted to sound really like, hey, we've got a cool little mantra to chant. Yeah, evil dies tonight. And you're like, oh, cool. Like, see, you guys thought about that one for a while. It just sounded so, to me, it was kind of cringy when they're walking around chanting. It just sounded stupid.
It was cringy.
And maybe that was the point, to kind of make the mob look like a bunch of buffoons. I don't know, but you know, I thought it was kind of. But
it made the actors. It made Anthony Michael Hall look bad. It made Sheriff Brackett look bad. It just felt. And Anthony Michael Hall, I like him. We went. He came to our area to a con. Like I think it's 2019, and I went there because I like Anthony Michael Hall. I've watched his stuff. I like Dead Zone and. I don't remember. He might have actually mentioned during that panel that he was going to be in Halloween Kills because I think my kids went with me, or at least maybe both of them. I can't remember, but they sort of have a memory of him saying something, and so that would have been before they started filming. He was already cast, and so he's not a terrible actor, but in this movie, did he feel just like a little bit too like. I don't know. He just didn't flow naturally to me. No. He just wasn't smoothly done.
No, everything was very, and I don't know what it comes down to. I can't get into like the nuances of acting, but it was just very theatrical, just like.
Oh yes, yeah.
Do this, and we're
Michael Meyers, evil dies tonight.
Yeah.
And I can't. And the thing for me, and whether it's writing or whether it's I don't know, in general, in film, and there's not always room for this, but I'm very much a subtlety person, and you can still make an impact with, I don't know, like with less this. And it just felt like their goal was just to dial up everyone's acting and everyone's facial expressions and everyone's everything. And it's just like, can we like pull back, please?
Yeah, if they had just taken, like, especially like I said with Jamie Lee Curtis, she felt over the top in some of her scenes too, you know? And I just feel like if they had just kind of dialed things back just a little, the kills back a little, his invincibility back, and kind of reined in the overacting. That's what it felt like they were doing. They were overacting. Reined that in a little bit, and it would have made this movie so much better. Oh, and ended it when he gets surrounded by the mob or something. That would have been a just like, because I thought for sure, like I said, I thought for sure that, okay, this is it. This is where it's going to end. We're not going to, it's going to be sort of like a quasi, cliffhanger or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be good. So,
I did like the scene with Anthony Michael Hall where when he went into Laurie's room and to tell her after that, Marion had been killed and Lindsay attacked and everything. And I thought it was kind of cool. Like, I thought it gave good motivation when he was just like, 40 years ago when I was a kid, you protected me. And now I'm going to try to protect you. I'm going to protect you. And I liked that scene. I thought it was kind of cool because he really, it showed, I thought that was the biggest character moment he had in the whole film. And there was nothing else other than that. He just seemed kind of, I don't know. He seemed like a stock character, but I did like that bit. I thought that was a cool, honest moment.
Do you know why they couldn't use the original actor? Is he just not acting anymore, or do you know? Because I hadn't heard.
His name's Brian Andrews, and if you go in the Halloween groups, he's kind of one of those guys that he's got a lot of mental health problems, I think, and he has kind of been unemployed for a long time, and I don't think he's even represented anymore, so that they couldn't get a hold of him if they wanted to. But he's got kind of a, same with Nick Castle, or Tony Moran. I'm sorry, Nick Castle is reprising his role.
Tony Moran is the unmasked Michael from '78, right?
Right, who got hot mic'd or whatever it was, saying how Halloween they're all creepy and goofy, weird morons, and he doesn't want to sign autographs for him. Oh, you can find the video. It's all, they hate him in the group, in the Halloween fan base.
Wow.
But both those guys, kind of, you mention them and you get a lot of vitriol of responses. So that's one of the reasons they couldn't find him. Plus, I don't think he looks particularly. He hasn't kept up on himself in recent pictures I've seen. He kind of looked like Charles Cyphers did, and but I know that Paul Rudd got asked if he wanted to come back.
Right.
But he could. Obviously, he's he's hooked up with Disney, so he's not going to trade in Disney for Halloween. But
especially
oh yeah, and plus he can command 15 million a movie in percentage points. Where I don't think with Halloween that's like the whole budget. So he was a little out of their price range, and it's sad because I thought he actually was pretty good in Halloween 6. Paul Rudd was, anyways, and
well, he's supposed to be, according to the director, but you wouldn't know it by watching this movie. Oh, really? The more I talk about it, the more angry I am actually about it. I'm not quite as passionate. I wasn't quite as passionate about it when I first walked out of the theater. Right. But now I'm going to go see it again tomorrow with Arturo. This will be my second big screen experience. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of in a pissy mood or something, but...
Well, and then there's that cringy line where she says, "The more he kills, the more he transcends," and you're like, "Oh,
right?
Wow."
So that was one of the when I would go into the movie theaters and they play the trailers. Sometimes the Halloween trailer would come on, and like I told you, oh my gosh, Jared, what's going on?
I just thought some of that stuff was supposed to be heavyweight dialogue. Like, they have to give you a tagline, like evil
I was
dies
laughing at
tonight.
Your dogs or whoever was.
Yeah, sorry. I even went outside, but they're still making noise. So I apologize, guys, to get the feedback.
Well, I could hear when the trailers came on. Like I told you, Dee, I avoided them. Like, if I would walk in a movie theater and I could tell that they were playing, I would turn right back around and leave. Or if I was already in my seat, I'd be like plugging my ears, closing my eyes, and doing this very deep, like, yoga breathing in my throat to like make noise in my ears. But one time I did hear the word transcend, and I immediately got worried because that to me, that has supernatural connotations to it. And so Jamie Lee Curtis said that in this movie. And then David Gordon Green was like, well, that's just, her speculation. And so that made me feel a little better. But then other people, like I said, have been saying, well, maybe Michael becomes immortal. Maybe he becomes supernatural, and that's the big twist. So I'm worried again.
Right.
Despite what DGG said, I'm worried.
Well, again, I wouldn't pay much attention. Oh, no, go ahead, Movieman. I was going to rant again.
You're okay.
No, go ahead, man.
Okay.
Seriously.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, as far as the whole, because I understand we've bounced around this whole supernatural element before, but it's kind of like, and I think for a lot of people, and there's another piece to talk about with fandom and all that, but I think that there's this whole conversation about just throwing suspension of disbelief at it, and we're just supposed to take it, and then it's suspension of disbelief. It's suspension of disbelief, because I remember someone said the same thing with The Strangers Pray at Night, and they were, and I mean, literally, I just remember this person in like the comment section, they were like, suspension of disbelief. It's not supposed to be realistic, and and I was like, okay, the reason why that doesn't hold water is because the whole point of The Strangers is that these are random people who decide, hey, you were home. We're going to terrorize you and kill you. Yeah. So then in the second film, them being able to survive truck explosions and having all these things done, stabbings, and the guys driving the truck on fire at the end. It's like that completely goes against the rules that you have set for this, universe or these characters or whatever. And so with this, it's kind of like we've done it before, but I don't understand, like, is there not a way to deviate away from that? Or are we just doomed to always repeat the cycle of, hey, Michael Myers is supernatural and immortal and this otherworldly being?
I hope not. I really, I want to see him die. I do want him to die. I would have been happy if 2018 was all we got.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, they say, if you stay to the end of the credits, you can hear him breathing. So that's a hint that he's alive. But still, you could also take it that he's dead. And I was like, wow, that's really well done. So he's dead. And I didn't know about the other two movies. And I was like, I was perfectly happy with that. But something I'm afraid is going to happen, and something I feel like the creators are going to think that they have to do to make it all poetic and everything, is that Michael and Laurie are going to kill each other.
Yeah.
They're both going to die. What do you want to bet?
Well, no, that's what they originally wanted to film in 18. And I think that they did film it in that way.
Test audiences did not like that.
Well, people don't want to see Laurie go through that. And that's one thing that I was talking about with bringing back these characters that survived. And most of all, Laurie, since we've been with her, she's as much Halloween, and she's right below Michael is integral to the franchise.
Right.
And Loomis, I guess. But, it's like she's one of those things. You got Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis. You say Jamie Lee Curtis, it's Halloween, So to have her go through all that and survive after all these years only to be killed again, it's like, that's just you want to watch these movies and still hope, knowing, come on, we're a glutton here. We know that people are going to be slaughtered and massacred, and we like it. Why deny it? We like to see that stuff. But you want to come up that there's always going to be someone. There's going to be someone who survives, and you're going to root for that, and you're going to like that, because that's kind of the point, is that someone does survive. But to see her go through, see her go through that, and then just to ultimately have her die over the course of, how many films she's been in, 5, 6, 7 Halloweens, different timelines, but to see her die like that,
many or more than Donald Pleasance.
Right.
At this point.
I just don't want to see that. I don't want that to be her fate. I would just rather have had them leave it alone than to tarnish it, because I wanted to end with like H2O. I would have had H2O been the conclusion of the franchise with Michael beheaded. I would have been satisfied. She confronted her demon. She grew her spine.
Exactly.
She confronted it. Yeah. And you're like, that's great. I felt good about that. Even I liked watching her when she came and finally called him out, and took his head off. I did not like Resurrection, where they just said,
that movie.
Yeah.
I don't count that movie. That movie does not exist. Thou shalt not say the name of that movie on this stream.
But you get what I'm saying. It's like the insult. It's like a sincere insult that you survive, and then they go and take that good feeling away from you.
She did that because, see, that was her doing. I'm sure like she demanded that she be killed. Like,
well, that was she was contracted with the Weinsteins and Dimension and everything.
So there's this video that I did a reaction to. I haven't put it up yet, but she's talking in a panel about H2O, and she's talking about she's talking about the movie that shall not be named. And did you know, I didn't realize this, you guys, it was her idea to do H2O.
Yeah, she wanted that.
Cool. She wanted that, and she's like, but I only want it like if you have this and this and this happen, and she smashes him between the something of the pool, like it was supposed to be a pool. And they're like, yeah, that's it. And so then when the script came, it didn't show that. And so she's like, wait, what? This is how, okay, okay, we'll do it. And they did again, still, it didn't show the way she said. And then finally they told her, we have a contract with, what's his name? Mustafa
Harvey Weinstein?
Akkad? No, Mustafa
Malik
Akkad. No, it was Mustafa at that point because he was still alive.
Yeah, he was still alive, yeah.
And the contract was they were forbidden to kill Michael. Right.
That's their cash cow. They're not going to kill him, even though.
Right. But, they could always just make another little series of movies in a whole other universe. I'm fine with that, too. But so she said, okay, they said, well, how about this? You think and the audience thinks that you've killed Michael. And so she did that. And then, of course, she had to come back and do Resurrection. She's like, you got to kill me. I'm only going to do this if you kill me in the next movie. But I don't know.
Well, yeah, she was obligated to do a cameo with that one, and they could have just had her not even. I would prefer she not even be in it at that point. Like she disappeared. She went into hiding again. You know what I mean, or whatever. Something. Give us just the way she was killed, and the fact that she was killed was really just. I remember just sighing in disappointment, but you kind of knew that's what was going to happen. Deep down, you're like, she's not going to survive this. And
and to me,
Go ahead. Go ahead, no, it's okay. Go ahead, Dane. We can interrupt each other. If a thought comes to you and you want to jump in, it's fine. This is kind of just the way it goes when we do these things. So go ahead. What were you going to say? To you?
No, I was just going to say, a big part of this whole dynamic, and I know it's a big slasher thing also, but a big part of that is the final girl. So I think having this whole, I don't know, just having this thing where it's like, let's kill off the final girl. Like the whole point of that character is that we survive. These whole, we kind of beat the odds and we survive in spite of these horrible circumstances and everyone else being killed. And I don't know, this desire to just let's just kill it. And I feel like they're trying to do this thing kind of like, if this makes sense, but the way Batman and Joker are interlinked, it's just like you can't have one without the other. Right. And so almost I feel like they're trying to do some kind of not literally a trauma bond, but almost like they have this deep link to each other. So it's almost like you kill one and you have to kill the other. But I don't see why that has to be the case. I feel like that's what they're thinking if they are going to do that.
I guess they think it's going to be some sort of great poetic type of ending, but to me it's just gonna suck if that happens. Right. I will not be happy. I will be so pissed if that's what happens, honestly. I really want to see this man die. I'll still have nightmares about him, but I want to see him die on screen and actually be dead. But you just wonder with the missteps that happened in Kills and I found myself hoping that ending sequence that they had, like with him killing the people after he was down and then him killing Karen, I was kind of hoping that was all just like a sort of a fake imagery of what he was capable of, but maybe we'll be surprised and maybe it really didn't happen.
Right.
But that was Michael having a bad dream and he wakes up and he's just back at the house burning. So
right.
No, but I was going to say one thing that I wanted to touch upon with we were talking about, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I started talking. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It'll come back to me. See, I'm getting old. This is what happens.
You are still young, Derek. Trust me.
When I get to it, I'll come back to it. But go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, I wanted to touch just on the hospital mob scene or the precursor to a zombie outbreak. That's what it was giving me. It's like people were just going to start biting each other, just I just feel like that's the next step here. But I thought, I will say, because it didn't click initially, because sometimes, like, there are times I go into movies and I kind of take it for what it is. I am definitely an analytical person with my, like, not just my reviews, but when I watch films. And so it didn't click at first, but then once I realized what we were doing with the whole mob piece, even though it happened really fast, but once I kind of got the kind of the piece and the commentary about just what happens when people just have this, I don't even know what you would say, but just when people just kind of pure emotion, raw emotion, and then aren't cognizant, and then innocent people, you know, get swept up in that and horrible things happen. Once I kind of realized, because initially, like when Karen goes after the mental patient and all that, I got scared initially because I'm like, please don't let this be a situation.
I was afraid he was going to do something to her.
Yes, that's what I thought. I'm like, that's the two of you up here, and, you know, you're trying to grab this. I didn't know. But then once I realized that wasn't the case, I was like, oh. And so just kind of the reality of, you guys are, you know, going after this person who literally hasn't done anything, and he literally was scared and this and that. So once I realized that kind of sunk in, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I kind of like, I was sympathetic, and I was like, okay, I feel what you guys are trying to do here. And I was fine with that. And, you know, when he inevitably jumps off, even there, I was like, okay, I kind of knew this wasn't going to end well. But then there's two things. I mean, two things. Okay. When we pan to his splattered body.
Oh, I know. It's like, whoa.
I was like,
nasty.
Why?
It was like, the tone is completely like, that's what I mean when I say tone, because you've kind of had this, you know, emotional little strand running through that piece.
Yeah.
And now he's like, you know, he does this thing. He commits suicide basically. But then you don't even keep with the seriousness of that, because if I see a bunch of body parts splattered with a bunch of gore and they're moving and things like that, how am I supposed to take that? Like, it's just like, wait, it
snapped you out of the somberness of it, and it just startled you with the brutality of what it looked like, and it did kind of, it's like, oh, and you were feeling really sorry, and then you see that's like, oh my God, that's terrible, and then you're just completely out of that previous mindset of just heartbreak, you know, for what the guy. Did you guys notice that was the same inmate from Halloween 2018?
Yeah, with the umbrella twirling around, and
right,
he's named in the book, and I forget the name of him already, but in the book he has a name. So
it was probably, it might have been something in Derek's background. I didn't hear anything just now, so I'm not sure what that was. Okay, so you said you were going to say two things. So what was
and then the other thing that let's just bring it on home, is when they're looking at the body, and then how did I suddenly forget Anthony McCall's character? What is his first name?
Tommy.
Tommy, yes, Tommy. And they're looking at the body, and it's like, you know, how do we know it isn't Michael?
Oh yeah, I know, right? When he said that.
So you mean to tell me that no one has noticed that Michael Meyers is not short and stubby,
short and squat? Yeah, right.
I was like, so how do we know?
Yeah.
That part was, I noticed that was clunky. But, you know, in the scene when the mob was getting out of hand, I thought he was kind of starting to come around and realize, oh my gosh, what demon have I unleashed? And then he said that stupid line. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You seem like you were getting it previously. Now you're like saying this. And I guess you could say, well, you know, people, they say dumb stuff to try to justify what they did or whatever, you know, but still, it just didn't feel, it felt clunky. No.
And I didn't like that Tommy Doyle was basically made out to be kind of this buffoon at the end.
Yeah.
Because I understood what he was doing, why he was stepping up there, like why he was leading that. I mean, not with the whole mob, like what they pushing the mental guy off the hospital or whatever, you know, cornering until he jumped. But I understood why he was like heroically kind of like, I'm going to go after this guy. You know, I'm going to go stop him. Like, you're like, who wouldn't support that in a sense, not to the degree it got, but I thought the end, they really wanted to go out of their way to humiliate him with, you know, what happens in the mob scene where he makes that stupid face before he gets smacked or whatever. And you're kind of like, see, again, another thing I didn't like, this kid was he was basically fucked up since he was a little kid, you know, with surviving this, had lived his whole life. And then what happens? Yeah, Michael gets you anyways. So it's,
Yeah, I know. I didn't like that any of those deaths occurred, and I feel exactly the way you do about that. This is why I'm hoping that part at least was just a dream, was an imaginary. It wasn't real. They were just showing, like what she's speculating that he's capable. I don't know. It's probably real. Damn it.
See, normally I would have written that off as lazy kind of film writing and stuff like that. But at this point, I'll accept it if they do it, because I want that result that, oh, yeah, he's just dreaming. It was bad dream. I accept it.
Yeah.
But no, I remember my thought, the one that slipped my aging brain
before you
here.
Forget again. Say it.
No, we've talked again about this, but I had told you, reflecting on the whole series, this is probably the most indestructible Michael has ever been. Aside when you point out, which is true. The end of Halloween 2, where he basically got engulfed in flames and blown up.
Completely engulfed in flames.
And he was still walking it off, though, and then he falls.
Yeah, he was walking it off.
But he was incapacitated for the next 10 years. So that's, you give that one. Okay, so 20, he got put down.
20. The next 20 years.
Which timeline we follow in here?
Well, I go Halloween 1, 2, and H2O.
Right. I'm thinking like 4 when he woke up in 88.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I go 4, 5, and 6 is just like this alternative multiverse type thing over there that doesn't really fit in.
Not alive in that one, is she?
Say what now?
I was like, yeah, I think it literally is alternative, because technically in that timeline, Lori isn't even alive at that point.
Right, she had died in a car wreck or something like that. And then when they came out with H2O, they were just like retconning 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
Well, H2O still could have been true. See, that's where it gets kind of confusing, because H2O does in a way reference
her daughter, though.
But she referenced this part 4 in the sense that said, "I faked a car accident," or "I faked my death in a car." So you're kind of like, so they are acknowledging that. But not directly. Maybe that
was just like an Easter egg or something.
Right, that's probably what it is.
Like an homage, but not necessarily, okay, this is canon.
But then playing with that on H4, she could maybe not really be dead and had really just faked it. And then gave Jamie up for adoption, so now Jamie has a new name. Michael won't find her.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, that's just me just thinking out loud. But anyways, I'm saying that he was the most indestructible in this film that's supposed to be grounded and reality based, per Danny McBride and David Gordon Green and H18 pretty much pointed to that. And here, all of a sudden, he is more indestructible than he is in Halloween 6, where he is irrefutably driven by that thorn curse or the genetic testing, depending on which ending you've seen. But he's basically stronger than superhuman here, and it's just I cannot stress enough, even as a fan, as a Halloween fan, who you accept that Michael can be shot, and he can be shot, stabbed, thrown off a building, and he'll come back eventually, but you'll win for that time being. This time it didn't matter when the mob got him, like you said, he popped right back up and he started swinging, and he all of a sudden was an expert. That little power nap he took for 30 seconds got his aim back. And he was slicing and dicing, and it was no problem. No one could touch it. Yeah, he was doing a little jig. I saw him just kick his heels at the same time. It was crazy. But no, you get into that, and it's so disappointing, because you want to know where can they go from here, because that's the natural progression of, I think, that horror films are destined to get into when you start getting into multiple sequels, is they have to keep upping the ante on what people will do to stop them. And since you can't generally, if these movies keep making money, you can't kill Michael, you can't kill Jigsaw, you can't kill Jason. If we keep throwing money at them, they just get stronger and stronger. So naturally, the protagonists have to up the ante on what they can throw at him. And I think this is just the inevitable fruition of how these genre films tend to work, unless you kill them off, and then they don't get to that point. And I'm just really worried, if they jumped this far within the course of one film, how far are they going to go on the next one? Are they going to jump the course of 3 Halloween sequels in one? I mean, in terms of Michael's indestructibility, I'm just worried. And that was sorry if my rant just keeps rambling, but I got points here I want to get to, where I said that this indestructibility, my other big issue is that it undermines 2018 Halloween. And because you start to look at things that he had, that were situations where characters had him or whatever, and you start to think, well, now that seems totally implausible, because he could have easily have broke out of that, or there was no way that he would have let that happen, or there was no threat to Michael in that scene. And I had talked earlier to you, Cyn, about this, where if Michael was this indestructible and bulletproof and could basically take whatever a literal mob crushing him and killing him, if they could take that, then why, I don't know why he would even let the police apprehend him in the first place.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Or why he would stay in Smith's Grove. And you got to think, not just being in Smith's Grove, which is pretty low security, place, it was maximum security, but, the point is, I'm sure he could finagle a brute force way out of there if he wanted.
Right.
Imagine him being in a courtroom. While he's getting tried, why would he go through any of that? He could have easily got out any freaking time he wanted to. But so you see these thoughts, it starts to take away from the previous film. And that's why I get really kind of hostile towards it, because it's like, not only I could just write a sequel off it, that's no problem. But when it starts to trickle in and fester into the previous film and contradict that, I get a little like, no, I don't, especially when I really liked it. I'm like, no, don't do that. I'm really upset now. But
I just don't know why they felt they had to, like, I could think of a great way to deal with the firefighter stuff. Like he kills one or two of them and the rest run away,
Yeah.
But I don't understand. Like, I had such confidence in these guys after 2018, and then it was just like, what the heck happened? Why? I don't understand. And were they like going for, 2018 was so popular, let's make the kills bigger, let's make Michael tougher? Why? Like you said, that completely diminished 2018.
That was what was so great about 2018 is they showed restraint. They didn't have all the falling of when these studio heads get involved, when a horror movie makes money, the studio, like, look what happened with Halloween 2. The first Halloween 2 in 1981, Universal bought the rights to it, and now they were like, we want more gore, we want more kills, we want more. What happened here? We want more gore. We want more kills. We want more up, show boobs, show everything. You know what I mean? It's like they start appealing to the lowest common denominator. And what was great about 18 is it didn't do that. It knew its audience. It knew specifically what it wanted to do, and it was restrained. And I loved it for that. I loved the hell out of it for that.
Yeah, me too.
But then I was pointing out to you, and they cut it from the. Sorry, I got an airplane flying by. I apologize.
Oh yeah, you do.
It's going, and it's gone. Okay, so in 2018, again, undermining how indestructible Michael is, they cut this from the film, but it was in the original shooting script and the novel. Sartain broke him out. Sartain, and then they implied that in the finished film.
Right.
But so again, if Michael could simply be so strong, he could break chains. He could easily take on 2 prison guards, as opposed to he can take on the freaking whole mob. So why did he need to play Sartain to get him out? Because he played Sartain in the book. He, at the end, before, I told you Michael has his point of view in the book. They do a lot of little chapters on that, where he looks at Sartain, and when he decides to kill him, Michael's thinking, well, I have no more use for him anymore. And so that's why Michael decides to, literally stomp his brains out.
It's so weird to be coming from his perspective. I have never read the books, but
it's very brief and it's childlike in the sense, because he's curious. He's still understanding things. He doesn't understand things. He says things in that point of view. But like Sartain says to him, his last words were, "But you promised me I could watch the kills."
Oh, and then Michael, you said that. So that's when we had that bit of miscommunication about that, because I'm like, well, in the movie, he acts like Michael has never spoken.
Right. Well, he was lying, but and he even says in one part that, because he's totally in on it. He's playing Sartain is convincing the boards to that Michael's not a threat anymore, to do this transfer to a minimum security type or wherever, and Michael's actually playing Sartain. And he goes, he can talk, he just chooses not to. But Michael does occasionally talk to Sartain, which that kind of diminishes the fear a little bit. But
it does, right? I don't want to hear Michael talk.
Right.
Then he's not scary anymore. Just like he's not scary to me when he's supernatural. What terrifies me is when he's a human. Because that's you get into supernatural territory and it's like, oh, okay, well, we're going there. All right.
But you get what I'm saying, that it's, again, as I'm thinking about how indestructible he is now, why did he need to even play mind games to get Sartain to bail him out when he was very capable himself? And it's not like he's afraid to. he brazenly took on 24 firefighters, you know? And so this is my thoughts. And that's why it just starts to, it's not just the one thing, it starts to fester into other aspects and diminish those. So that's why that's why I can't shut the heck up about it.
Well, I just kind of hope that, so like the fans and the critics, they're divided on this. Now in 2018, they were pretty unified. Fans and critics both gave it positive results. That makes me happy to see that. So while I do poo-poo the critics a lot of times because they are out of touch, when those scores came in so low, I was a little worried because I knew how much they loved the other one. And I agreed with the critics on 2018. But so the fans are something, it's so weird. I don't know if you've run into this, Dee, or if you've seen any of this on social media, because I was on Twitter a little bit talking with people about it, and some people absolutely love it. They love that he's seemingly indestructible. They love the kills. They love this. And then other people are like, well, this is not, for the same things we've already been talking about. Right. So I don't know if you've noticed that sort of division going on with the fandom of Halloween.
Yes, I have. And some of it is just actually just right here on YouTube looking at a certain review. And I kind of have a little piece about the fandom when I do my review, when I draft my review tomorrow, because the logic is not there for me. But what I was seeing a lot in comment sections, this reoccurring thing was just that if you haven't grown up with Michael Myers, if you haven't grown up with the franchise, if you have not followed the franchise, then you don't understand the mythos of Michael Myers. And basically all of that to kind of say that you should love this film. And if you don't, then you're just
you're not a fan. Yeah, you're not a fan.
You're just a critic, and you don't have a connection to this. And because if you did have a connection, then you would love it.
Yeah, but I mean, I love Halloween, but I don't love all the movies in the series. You can love a franchise and not be in love with all the movies.
Right.
Yeah.
That is possible, but some people don't seem to understand that.
Yeah, the Halloween fan base really I don't know if you guys are in, but I'm in like 3 or 4 Halloween specific groups on Facebook, tens of thousands of people on there. And they're just like salivating over Halloween kills. And these is, and then if you were there in these groups pre-Halloween 18, they were very, you got to know people in there, but now they're just, once 18 came out and they made bank and Michael became trendy, it just got flooded with people. And a lot of these people are like overnight fans, not to be a fan snob, but like they didn't know the difference between the sequels. They would say, well, how come Michael Myers can, why isn't, or sorry, Halloween H2O, how come she doesn't talk about her daughter? Well, you know what I mean? They would ask
some people that still think they're brother and sister. I've seen some people say that's like,
how come Halloween 3 doesn't have Michael Myers? Yes, it does. But that's how you weed out he's on the TV. Yeah. So
2 times.
I know, but that's how you kind of, those are the people that are, you tend to get a lot of those. And then overwhelmingly, they love kills. So it's kind of like people who just kind of, this is one of their very first experiences with Halloween, and they're just kind of, they don't have, which is conversely to what Movieman was saying about how people, well, if you don't like Halloween kills and you're not a real fan, well, conversely, I would say that a lot of these people who are salivating and tripping over Halloween kills, how much they love it, are just kind of, this is some of their first experiences. So if anything, to be a snob, I would probably go the other way and say, well, they may not know the series particularly well or the history, but again, that's a rabbit hole you never want to go down, because it just becomes a pissing contest and who can stream the loudest, who's the better fan. But
I'm glad that people, I don't want to diminish that people, people can get really insulting. Well, if you don't like this film, you're just an idiot. Well, if you like this film, you're just dumb. I'm not going to go there. I'm very happy that this movie did well. To be honest, as upset as I am about the way things went, this movie exceeded expectations. They were initially saying it was going to, and I watched Grace Randolph's review about this, and she didn't even bring this up. She kind of came at it from the perspective of, well, 50 million is kind of disappointing because when Halloween 2018 came out, it made 70-some million. And I pointed out, it was estimated to only make 30. So it exceeded expectations. Plus, we are still in a pandemic. But I knew that it wasn't going to make 30 when I was at my theater, packed. And I was looking at how the weekend was going. It was packed. Like, let's say, okay, 1 or 2 seats in the front or whatever. But, you know, I could tell. It's like, this movie is going to make probably 50 million. That's exactly what it ended up
plus
making.
it got
I'm
delayed.
happy.
Delayed a year. Remember, it was supposed to come out this time last year. So usually when movies sit on the shelf, they do not retain box office because they have a very finite life, a very limited shelf life. You can't keep moving them around and for the most part expect them to still make money. Every time you push the release date back farther, they lose box office potential because, you know, people start to they forget about it and you're losing steam on the hype. So to me, that it still, you know, made 50 million after a year delay and on top of the Peacock thing. To me, that's it did. I'm sure they're very happy. They're very happy with that opening weekend, especially on what had $20 million budget. You know, it's like,
is that what it was? Okay. Okay. So I just hope that David Gordon Green kind of strolls through the internet fan base and pays attention to some of the criticisms, because I don't want to end up hating this trilogy, or not trilogy, it's the real 4 movies. I don't want to be the person that's like, okay, I'm not going to count kills and ends. It's only going to be Halloween 78 and Halloween 2018, and that's it. Well, whatever.
I feel like I didn't say enough good things about it because, like I said, I did like Kyle Richards. I know we've been kicking it for like an hour. Like, just we keep trying to say something good, but I really did like Kyle Richards, and I hope Lindsay Wallace has, because well,
she lived, so
she did, and I really want to see what they'll do with her in the next. Should they have her character return, assuming they don't want to kill her. I thought that she showed potential, like as she had good scenes, like she was a capable actress. No, you said you weren't a fan, but I was. I enjoyed her.
I mean, I didn't hate her. She didn't wow me, but I did like the scene where I liked that they had her character actually kick a little bit of butt. You know,
she was the only one of those 4 who I thought actually did something smart. And even after Michael had, you know, basically massacred those people, she still came at him. And I thought that was great. I love seeing characters do that when they step up. And that's why I like Tommy Doyle, because he was all about doing that too. You know, they basically, the story told us he ended up being a moron and a wrong character. But I don't like those decisions. I feel like they want to wag their finger at him. Oh, you know, when you're a victim of grief, this is how you should respond, you know, and that kind of hindsight stuff. But I don't like that. But
well, I'm glad she was able to hide and not get killed.
Yes.
Because I would have been because I'm like, okay, I was getting mad at her because she was like, you know, making noise. And I'm like, shut up. He's going to kill you. And I'm like, if he kills her, that's going to be so dumb. But he did. I mean, I did like that this went in directions I wasn't expecting. Like, I totally didn't see that Hawkins was going to be alive. And I like that. I like that Lindsay lived. And so, you know, listening to the 3 of us rant about this film, you'd think we absolutely hated every side. I mean, I don't know about you, Dee. I didn't hate it. I think you liked portions of it too, but just a disappointment. I think it's because we were so excited, and I went in there trying to have no expectation like I did with 2018, but I just feel really let down by what they did with this thing. I can't say that enough times, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna say a part of it for me, because I had that like in my mind. I jumped back to 2000, not 2018, but I remember when I watched the 1978 version. I don't know. It was either like the tail end of high school or like right as I was starting college, and so I ended up watching it for the first time. And you know, it was an awesome experience. But the scene that always stands out in my mind there, it's right after, you know, Laurie stumbles in and sees, like, you know, out of her, you know, I think it's like at least 3 or 4 people in that room, like who are dead.
Yeah, one's on the bed, one's in the closet, one's in the kitchen.
Yeah. And she sees all this, and she kind of like, and then at this point, she's in the bedroom. She stumbles out, and she's like, you know, traumatized and panicking and crying and all that kind of stuff. And then and she kind of, you know, just kind of falling against the wall. And then we see this doorway
behind her,
and ever so slightly. It wasn't even like a flash. It was just like a
little bit,
standing there, like.
Oh, was that not creepy?
Yes, and I love that because it was so stealthy and so specific. And then she is, you know, just kind of walking, and he's just like, you know, and then you know, it goes haywire from there. But I just remember watching that scene. I was like, and it scared the you know what out of me.
I believe you.
but it was so effectively done. And to me, and I'm not saying I know the ins and outs of Michael and the mythos and all that, but for me, that stealthiness, that, that quiet, that quiet, unexpected aspect of him, to me, that's what makes him scary. And we completely kind of like drop that here.
Yeah.
So we're guns blazing, and like that's the complete opposite of that.
Right, and that's what was one thing that I liked, was that he was this, like I was trying to say to her, like articulate it, but he was like a stalker. He would sit there and he would creep and he would just stand in the shadows, and that's a perfect scene where and a lot of times I'm sure it was so subtle that most people kind of missed it the first time, because if some TVs, I'll be watching it and I'll know the mask is there, but the definition of the TV, I can't even see the mask, and so he just kind of pops out, and that was creepy because he was there and he'd been there the whole time. That's what is really kind of unsettling, is that you didn't even know that he had been there. Whereas this Halloween, I'm thinking of like Friday the 13th Part 7, where Jason just kicks in doors, jumps through windows, where he'll just be like, "Oh, I got you now," and it's just like, that's not the Michael I want. I want him to be something that is kind of like the wind that hides in the shadows. That will just all of a sudden you'll be walking and it's like, you ever step outside and you see a raccoon looking at you? And you've been doing things and changing the garbage, doing whatever, and all of a sudden you look down, and those eyes are like 3 feet, and you're like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, I didn't even see you there, man!" And your heart like jumps, and that's what would scare me more than just Michael kicks a door in. Well, then I'll just run away from him. You know what I mean? It's like,
or like in Halloween 2. Oh my gosh, that scene where he just walks through the glass door. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
See, this is why I'm not crazy about Halloween 2, but I'll tell you something. I recently got the collector's edition Blu-ray, which includes the television version, which has some added scenes, and they switched some things around. And I was watching it today's Monday, right? Yeah. I was watching it yesterday, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but I don't remember him walking through the glass door in the television scene. So I need to go back and refresh my memory.
The TV version is crazy. It is, they just edited that movie so weird. Like, I think 1 or 2 characters just disappear and don't die. And Jimmy, when he slips on Mrs. Al's blood. But they didn't kill
Jimmy in this one.
No, he lived. That was cool.
In this one he lived, but it was weird the way they edited it, because they had him slip when the explosion happened.
Right. That's what I was saying. Is he
was in the way? It's like, what? Wait a second. And
but he slipped on their blood. That's so.
He slipped on her blood. That would, to me, I always thought that was the dumbest death in Halloween 2, because he slipped on blood and hit his head, and then he died.
Right. See, see, he's a character that I wanted to live, and it's funny because it's like that TV version became the thing of like legend growing up in the 90s, where I'd go on like HalloweenMovies.com, the website, and they had all those. They had all those pictures of it that you couldn't see the movie, and this was before DVD. They didn't have deleted scenes, they didn't have stuff like that, and you'd catch it on TV every so often. But most times when in later years when they'd show it on TV, it would just be like an edited theatrical version, like they just cut the gore and the nude scenes out. Where
there was some cool. No, sorry, go ahead. I'm jumping in.
No, that was it. And it wasn't until later years they kind of put that original NBC honky wonky weirdo edit that they did, that just kind of like they were smoking pot while they made it, like, oh, hey, you know what I mean? Like, they had no idea what they were freaking doing. And
but honestly, I'll tell you something. I was watching deleted scene with commentary, and something that they did in the televised version one of the things they did in the televised version that I liked better than the theatrical is, in the televised version, they're getting ready to give her this shot or whatever, and the lights go out. And so they cut that part out of the theatrical version. So all of a sudden, when you're watching the theatrical version, all of a sudden the hallways are dark. And I remember from the time I watched that movie, I was like, this is dumb. Hospital hallways are never pitch dark like this. This is stupid. But then I was watching the commentary, and the director or something was saying, we had to cut that out. And I was wondering if anybody was going to notice, but nobody seemed to notice. And I'm like, really? I noticed the very first time. I'm so surprised nobody seemed to notice, because if they'd left that in, that would have explained a lot, because one of the things that I was complaining about with kills, it didn't happen a ton, but it did happen, like where people would go in dark places. It's like, please, come on. People don't do that in real life. It's been so overdone in horror movies. But if you've got the situation where the lights have been cut or the power's out and the handyman's been killed, okay, I get it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So I don't know, but I don't know.
Which was kind of funny because that movie went through reshoots, and that's how John Carpenter got director, or he directed a bunch of scenes. But Dana Carvey had a role in the original film. He's in a blink of a miss it shot in Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2. Yeah, he's the cameraman when she's like, get a statement from their parents, and if you can't, just do it anyways. Look at the guy with the goofy hat that she's talking to. That's Dana Carvey.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
And then originally what happened, and this footage has never been found or whatever, but how Michael got to the hospital was that he had hid in that reporter's car, and she went, knowing that she was going to find Laurie Strode, he overheard it and he climbed into the trunk of her car or whatever.
Oh, they should have put that in there.
And then she got a flat tire, and there was a creeper scene like that where Michael she's trying to change her flat, and Michael rises out of the background from the trunk. Like the trunk lid creeps open and he steps out. It's kind of a creepy thing, but they cut all that. They cut all that whole subplot out just to have it where he bumps into that boy listening on the radio, and then he just walks to the hospital.
Yeah.
And but that's kind of funny. It's like, and in my head when you're saying that, it's like, yeah, dude, no one's gonna notice that the power went out, but no one's gonna notice that one girl's towel dropped like 2 feet when she was getting killed. When she was getting boiled alive.
Oh, the girl in the
nurse,
girl in the water. Yeah.
Just so they could have a shot of that, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, no one caught that one. Sure, dude, whatever. It's like.
Have you seen Halloween 2, D?
Yes.
The original. Okay. Have you watched? You watched all of the Halloweens?
Let's see. I've seen first Halloween, the second, Halloween 3, season of which I've always wanted to see that, especially once I kind of realized where it fell within the rest, but I haven't seen that. I've seen H2O. I've seen both Rob Zombies. I've seen Resurrection, unfortunately. And then I've seen 2018 and then Kills. So I've seen.
Okay. So you haven't seen 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah, those are the 3 that I think I missed out.
Okay. So Halloween 3, the movie theater that I go to every month, they have a mystery movie. So for October, it was cool, like $5, and it's a mystery movie, and you won't know. Well, but then they drop hints right before, like shortly before showtime. So by the time I went, I knew it was going to be Halloween 3, and I was like, I remember not being like, I don't hate Halloween 3, but because it's not Michael Myers and all that, it's just like, eh. So then I just went ahead. I know what it is. I'm going to go ahead and watch it because it's been decades since I've seen it or paid attention to watching. And it's actually pretty decent. There's some stuff that happens at the end. I'm not going to get into specifics since you haven't seen it, but there's stuff that I did like a review of it. Don't watch I don't remember if I gave spoilers in that review. I was going to say, don't watch that review if you haven't seen it. But there's stuff that happens at the end that I was like, okay, they could have left that out because that was silly. But overall, it's actually pretty decently written. I don't know if you like and the score, John Carpenter did work on the score, and it has like the flavor of the original Halloween score. Like there would be moments where it would show Michael and there'd be like this sharp sound. It did that too in Halloween 3, except like a different chord or something. It was like a little different, but it's like, man, that's so John Carpenter.
Halloween 3 is definitely a John Carpenter film versus being a continuation of Michael Myers. So if you just go, I know I don't get it when people are like, oh, I didn't like it because Michael wasn't in it. Okay, so you didn't like anything else about it? It was like, watch it. It's a good end of the world.
Well, unfortunately, that turned people off of it.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, you blinked out for a second. I was.
I'm sorry.
Voice went away. No, it's not your fault. But that turned people off of it. Unfortunately, that was its undoing. Was because people did expect it to be about Michael Myers.
Because as soon as they were done with Halloween 2, Michael was dead. He's burnt to a crisp. He's toast. They were going to go make anthology films and or make every year a Halloween centric film, like a sequel. And that's kind of a cool idea. I think would still be kind of fun to explore in a side plot.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, I keep losing. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on.
You were like, you just completely went away, and now D is up here in the upper right.
Hey, we switched places. That's cool.
Yeah, you do. You switch places. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
but no, check out 3 and 4 and 5 and 6.
Out of between 4, 5, and 6, 4 is probably the best.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, in my opinion. I remembered that I really, when it came out, I liked it because I think it came out in '88, and I remember, I remember that was when I taught myself how to play that song on the piano with like an electric keyboard. Because I remember watching and I had recorded it, and I taught myself how to play it by ear. I'd recorded it on audio tape, but it's decent, and 5 isn't awful. 6 is pretty bad, but I still watch them. I still watch them all. If they're on, I still play them. I don't necessarily switch the channel just because, but I do have my favorites.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where I don't know. I don't think I said it in the review, but I've said this to my friends before with because I would say and when I mention certain films, I'm not jumping. There's always like some kind of connection there. But the reason I mentioned X-Men as a franchise is because similar to Halloween, they've done like it's been this whole wonky timeline where it's been these movies and then we've reset and we've ended and we've reset and we've ended and we've reset again.
Yeah.
And I feel like even though only there's like maybe like a handful of all of those X-Men films that are actually like decent or solid or well made, I enjoy them because of like I enjoy the universe. Like I enjoy the mutants. I enjoy the powers. It's something that's always enjoyable. So I can understand like with Halloween, even though it seems like aren't we just like doing this again and again? But there's just something about Michael Myers and just the just that whole space and the structure of the story that people are just like, I just want some more.
Yeah, and what is it about? I mean, I think it's the simplicity of how his character was done. And I mean, you look back on it now, it's like, wow, it's genius. But the whole thing with the mask, that was just because they couldn't come up with any they were going to do a clown mask. That didn't work. That didn't look so good. So they're like, oh, let's take this William Shatner mask, cut the eye holes bigger, flatten it out, spray paint it white, and tuck the hair. Oh, there you go. Iconic.
Yeah.
It's just
happy
like
little accident.
The things, it just kind of proves that you don't need a crap ton of money to make a really good film. And so something that flashed through my mind when we were talking about Kills, they had more budget probably,
right?
But it's just, it didn't make a better movie. Their smaller budget made a superior movie in 2018. So I hope they pay attention to the critics.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that with what I've learned, especially when I go back, as I've watched more and more movies, especially like ones from further back. I remember I think I watched Rocky for the first time, like it was probably maybe like, is that 8 years ago? It was like some years ago. And I never had the chance to see it. And so I remember the ice skating scene with Rocky and Adrian. And I remember I always do my research either while I'm watching or afterwards. And so I found out that basically, the budget for Rocky was really low. Sylvester Stallone, his money was looking funny. And so it was supposed to be, during business hours where everyone's there and, they're skating with everyone. But he couldn't afford to do the scene that way. So he had to kind of find another way to do it. And ended up working out to where he and Adrian are the only ones there. I think he ends up thinking the story. I think he ends up having to purposely take her after hours, or someone keeps it open for him to come and take her on a date. But there's something very, I don't know. There's something about that shift and that change that makes it stand out in a different way. And there are plenty other examples with other films,
like with Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh yeah,
when he shot the guy with the sword. Only because he was sick as could be with diarrhea, and he didn't want to film a fight scene. So it's like, why can't I just shoot him? Exactly. So stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Like what you were saying.
Yeah, you have to become creative, and it's just like, how can we tell the story in a way that still works, but without having this budget? And I think when you have a budget, you can just kind of splurge and go out, and it doesn't become about the storytelling. It becomes about how can we add this and add that and
make it bigger and better. And it's like their creative mind kind of goes out the window. So. It's pretty. It feels like it's pretty rare for a big budget film to actually be like, okay, so T2. It always comes around to T2. That was a big budget film, but that's an excellent movie because it was very well thought out, very well planned. The screenplay was awesome, and all the storyboarding he did in preparation, and so it is possible. But it does seem like more often than not, more money makes a worse film.
Right, and then when you get the studio involved, you get more hands, and they get more demands, and then they've got their finger on the pulse of the crowd. You know, what's going to sell? What do we think will sell the most? The lowest common denominator type stuff. And usually these sequels, when they get quadruple the budget, the result is not better. Like you were touching on earlier with Rocky, when he had less money, it's because it's like there's a hunger with them. They want to tell this story. They're so passionate about it, and they really had time to think it through and kind of give it their all. And then you see that, you know, it's a case of with these sequels that, you know, money cannot buy creativity. It cannot buy that drive. It's one of those, you know, intangible things that money, you can throw as much money in the world as you want on it. It doesn't mean you'll get an equal result or even a better result. A lot of times the result is lesser. And especially in the long run, these things are like short-sighted trade-offs. You know, it's like, for now we're going to, you know, oh yeah, we loved seeing Michael lift a fireman up by his pickaxe, you know, 6 feet in the air because it makes a great poster. But then, and people are like, oh, cool, let's go see that. That's cool. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, after everyone's seen it, they're like, yeah, I really didn't like that. And then you know, so it's like a short-sighted trade-off, you know, and I really think Kills fell victim to that. And I just can't stress my disappointment in that enough. But, you know, like you were saying, Dee, is that even if you got good and bad ones, when you love a franchise, you still just love to go down that little trip. And so, I mean, like and you were talking X-Men, I can even watch X-Men 3 if it's on. Like I can.
I mean, it's not like X-Men 3. I know a lot of people hated it, but I liked it. And I think part of the reason that I really enjoyed that is because of the whole thing with Jean Grey and Logan. Oh my gosh, that tore my heart out when he had to kill her.
No.
I understood it, but still, you know.
I'm still bitter about Cyclops, man. I haven't gotten over that. It's been like 15 years.
I am too. I think, honestly, I think in and of itself, it's a good film. I think as a follow-up to 2, especially with that, that last, evolution leaps forward and seeing the, the flame, spreading and all that. And it's just like, it didn't, I think connecting the 2 is where it gets thrown off, because in and of itself, like, the house scene with Professor X and Storm and everyone fight, like there are so many great sequences, the Golden Gate Bridge, like there are great sequences. I just think it falls short narratively, because we've kind of been set up in the second one to see certain things, and then because I never realized it at the time, but I was like sometime afterwards I realized that Nightcrawler was like completely not in the third
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Completely gone. That's neat.
It's a major part of the second. So
yeah,
the second was such a solid follow-up, though. Like, I think in a lot of ways it excelled from the first, just because, there were a lot of limitations. They had to adjust the story with budgetary stuff on the first one, even though it still had a pretty big budget.
See, that's an example of a bigger budget producing a superior sequel.
I just think X2 is solid. Like, if I think of which one I want to go back to most, I watch X-Men 2. But I still enjoy the heck out of the first one. I still think they did a really good film that kind of came out of nowhere, and but anyways, that was just kind of my thing. Is I like watching those franchises, and Halloween Kills. I mean, like if I had to give it a rating, I'm probably going to say a C+ or a B-, because I still enjoy it like as a whole. And I'll watch it again. I'll buy the 4K when it comes out. But
I'm sure you will.
Yeah, you can already pre-order the 4K on Best Buy. The Steelbook they got going on.
Yeah, that's right. That's crazy.
But I'm just saying, I still enjoyed the trip, and I want to watch it again. And when my thoughts have kind of settled, and see again if revisiting it will maybe change some of my outlook, if I'll be more sympathetic to it. Maybe I was just overly harsh.
That's what I thought when I rewatched it.
Yeah, I know you were saying it made it worse.
But maybe going back to see the big screen experience, in my opinion, a lot of times it diminishes the faults. For me,
no, it does.
Literally, you feel it too.
You said I'm going to go see it at the big screen again. I was thinking that, but I think I kind of forgot my point. But no, I think the theater experience, because it's so like, I don't know, it's very escapist. And
yeah.
And that's really why I love the theater. But yeah, you're not necessarily thinking about the specific things. Like you might recognize certain things, but it's not until you really like sit and kind of revisit again without the experience that you realize, that happened to me with Wonder Woman. I was, when Wonder Woman came out, it was an advanced screening, and I was,
Which one, the first or 84?
Oh no, 84. Sorry.
You got to see an advanced screening, you lucky stinker.
I don't know how they were.
How did you do that? Oh, was it if you physically went to the theater to go see it, or was it? Oh, you so lucky.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where it came along at the right time. I was not, I was not in the best spirits. Theaters had only were kind of open, but they really weren't. And so when this came along, I recognize now that Wonder Woman 1984 has a lot of issues, but the experience of it was really what I needed at the time. And I think just having that, and I think it was like an IMAX experience or something like that. So it was like really big, huge, in your face.
Cool.
And so I was able to kind of just sink into that. And I think, especially if I think about my review, it kind of like maybe blinded me to some of the other issues.
Oh, I need to watch your review of that.
Ooh, I don't think you should.
Well, I actually enjoyed Wonder Woman 84. I recognize that I feel I like the first one better, but I still enjoyed 84 for a multitude of reasons, and I'm glad I was able to see it on the big screen as well. That made me.
I love
happy.
The heck out of 84. It was just total...
Derek and I did a whole live stream about Wonder Woman 84. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay, well, I feel better because the thing is that I know the general, and it doesn't mean like it's not one of those things where I feel differently about my opinion. It's just that I see I probably, if I had revisited, I probably would have had more like, oh, I kind of see what's wrong here and there. But for me, a big part of the whole review thing is the experience and the entertainment piece, and so I think a lot of it carried it for me. Whereas most people are just like, oh my gosh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And for me, in my review, it's like I had a good time with this. So
yeah. I enjoyed it.
I'm in opinion.
Yeah, no, I get it. I completely get it. The big screen. So that a movie's particularly not so great if the big screen experience doesn't kind of gloss over those issues. And there's a handful of films that have done that for me, like Army of the Dead. Oh my gosh. Ugh. I saw that on the big screen, and then The Green Knight. I saw that, and I was like, I regret that I even set my butt in this. God, hate that movie.
That's the first review I ever saw, because I remember YouTube kind of recommended. It was like The Green Knight, and I'm like, okay, I need to see some other reviews of this because I was, I just was like, I need to hear what someone has to say. And like when I literally clicked on your review, it was like, this is everything I feel about this. Oh my gosh! Like, am I going? I respect everyone's opinion, but I'm like this whole thing where we just get caught up in the style and it being abstract and all that. I'm like, but narratively, what am I taking away from this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what really got me on the channel, because I was like, wow, this is like.
I was pretty pissed. I actually was I was angry. And there's not many movies that do that. Like, Army of the Dead pissed me off because the writing was so bad. And I mean, it was so bad that the big screen experience couldn't fix that for me. Like the big screen experience fixed a lot of things for me for Halloween Kills, but not with like Army of the Dead and The Green Knight and then Candyman. So it's just.
Are we all in agreement about Candyman on this one, Cyn? Because I've talked to you about it, but.
I think we are. I know you weren't crazy about it, and a lot of people actually weren't, which is it kind of surprises me that it's got such a high audience score. Yeah. But I was happy that Halloween Kills in like one day made what Candyman did in the whole opening weekend. So I was like, okay, well, that's good. But I think also Halloween just has a bigger, maybe a bigger fan base. It's more well known. That's probably.
Well, Candyman already went to the direct-to-video route, 20 years ago. So,
Yeah, with the other films. Yeah.
That's why it was kind of laughable when all these people who were like freaking born in like 2004 or 5, are sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, Candyman is such a great movie. Oh, I love the heck. It is so great." And you're like, dude, you never even saw a Candyman movie before this one. Just shut up. It's not that great. It's like,
you mean like the
a snob now, an old man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you never even saw it. Because that's like these people who never even sorry. Yeah, that's another can of worms. I'm not going to open on this thread, but Candyman, the 2021 was just. It's like people over eager to like something, and they're just really vocal and loud about it.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's part of what's going on with Kills. You know,
I think it is, because when you want to push, it's like one of those things where everyone is all the people that love it are really vocal and really loud, and you'll kind of pop up in a comment thread and be like, I didn't really like this about it, and then you just get swarmed by people, you just kick the beehive. But then you'll get like all these people like out of the blue, like these lurkers are clicking like or something, but they're afraid to speak up. You know what I mean? Because they just don't want to get swarmed. They don't want to deal with it. So to me, it's like one of those cases where right now the mob is really vocal about how much they love it, and they're trying to squash detractors, and give it time, we'll get a more balanced outlook on it, and you might even get to the point where people are kind of like, it really wasn't that good of a film, or and the one Halloween I always like to point out is Resurrection. Now everyone is usually always saying how horrible of a film it was and how it's really bad and the worst Halloween film, but you got to remember in 2002 when it came out, though, it made money. I mean, it was, and especially with young audiences, it was very popular. Because I was a teenager then, and everyone pretty much that summer, hey, did you see Halloween Resurrection? Oh yeah, I went and saw the opening weekend. I remember going to it and it was sold out, and it was just like, it became one of those films that was very,
I just can't.
It was very timely though, like it felt very current with the filming, with the Palm Pilots and stuff, which is kind of funny in that way.
TV type sort of thing.
Because you're watching it, and it's like a little time capsule for the early 2000 technology that now we basically have it all, and it's so common. But yeah,
I just keep flashing on the horrible mask and the horrible. Who was the dude that was in there that said the final line to him before he
trick or treat, motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh god, I can't. That's just. Yeah, damn, that guy, I couldn't remember because I never watched the whole thing. I just knew there was a rapper in it. Tyra Banks, that's right. She was in it. And also because in Halloween 20, what's his face? LL Cool J was in that one. I liked his character in there. He was cool.
Yeah. Ronnie, and he was funny and he was kind of inept, and he was just kind of. And then here, Busta Rhymes was just over the top and kung fu and Michael Myers around and stuff, and they were going for, again, the lowest common denominator. What can get a laugh out of our test audience? What can get for 15-year-olds, and
but it turned it into a stupid comedy, it's just
it became almost a parody, unfortunately, and so it didn't stand the test of time. But I was saying, at the time, when it came out, it was very popular film, and it was still riding high on the horror revival. People remember how popular H2O was when it came out, and that one even gets a lot of hate in the Halloween communities.
I don't know why.
Although
it's actually pretty good movie. What
do
you think
about? There's not a lot of gore.
Yeah, but see, that's what I like. I mean, to me, the less gore in a Michael Myers film or Halloween film, the more scary it makes him. That's how it works for me, because he's just like we were talking about, that guy in the shadows, and he's doing all this stealthing. And so it makes it really scary. What did you think about H2O, D?
Oh, me. And see, I have to go back and revisit it, because that was like, there are films like that I watch in my there are these phases of my cinephile movie buff experience, and so there are some that come before I step into my I am really into the analytic part of film, and really I can really assess all these things that I appreciate about it. So just for me, it just was, I just enjoyed the experience of it. That's kind of what I remember. It was effective. It was scary, more so because I was younger also, but I just enjoyed the way that it came together. Now, at the time, I don't think I knew about how many Halloween films there were.
Oh, yeah.
So I found other connections there that I didn't completely make sense of. So that's why I say that's one if I watch now, I'll probably really be able to appreciate it more, especially the nuances and the small things too.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was a competent film to be. I mean, you got to look at the cast they got in these movies. Both, and even Resurrection had a really good cast, especially if people that would go on to be bigger things, or at the time were very currently popular things. And that's one of the things from luckily having a Weinstein back your film, is that he can pull all these. He can get all these people to do little roles that normally would never be in one of your movies, and he put all these people in the Halloweens. But Halloween H2O, that was the first one I ever saw in theaters. I was 12, and I remember just being just totally infatuated with it. I was just like, oh my god, greatest movie I ever saw. You know what I mean? Exaggerative, but I was you could call it an obsession type thing. I was really fanboying hard there. And I saw it on Halloween night in 1998. So that was kind of the first one I got to see as a kid. Yeah, and you know, and I remember going to Suncoast Motion Picture, and do you remember those stores?
Oh my
gosh! One of the greatest stores ever.
I don't actually. Are they? Is it a West Coast thing?
No, they were all over, man. Pennsylvania to here, and they're
really? Were they movie rent? You're from the Midwest?
Yeah, originally from Chicago. I remember like all the malls pretty much had one.
Is it a movie rental store?
No, video sales, like just a store where you bought movies, and they still have actually. There's like a handful left in the country, but yeah, man, I went there and I put my $5 deposit on the DVD. I remember that, and I was so proud. And then the movie kept getting delayed coming out because I don't know if you knew the behind the scenes thing on that, but they had to recall a bunch of the DVDs when they finally got them released because it still said it had a commentary by Jamie Lee Curtis and Steve Miner. But this is the one that she showed up to and was so drunk that it was it was like inaudible. Like they were like, oh my God, we can't release this. But they'd already printed all the covers and.
Yeah, I heard she did a commentary and she was drunk out of her brain. And so that surprises me a little because I thought it was around that time that she made that movie that she got sober, but it must have been right after.
I think it was after because I think she said she was still drinking heavily during that period, the late 90s.
Which mirrored her character.
Right, exactly. And that's why I think probably why the performance came off as so organic and real and why she was able to, she was pretty much a producer, a creative force behind Halloween H2O, which if you remember when it was originally made, it was called The Revenge of Laurie Strode. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that.
Okay, but that was what it was, and that was when John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were attached, but then John Carpenter
got unattached,
yeah, because Harvey Weinstein was the egotistical little guy, and when John Carpenter said, I'll only do it if you give me a 3-picture deal, basically if you tried to come in making a deal like you had the upper hand with Weinstein, he'd shoot you down just out of principle. And so that didn't go anywhere, and then they had to get Steve Miner, who'd done a lot of horror movies. He did Friday 13th 2 and 3 and tons of things. But anyways, it was really cool that she came through with that, and I think that was her driving force, and probably her relationship with alcohol and stuff translated so well to the story, and I give it credit for that, and that's one reason again why I thought that H2O, like as a character piece, if Michael's he's just a subplot, her coming forward and confronting that, dealing with all the trauma it put through, I really think it stands up well. And that's why if the series had concluded at that point, I would have felt truly satisfied. Like, okay, cool. We got a good, dignified ending to it, not what Resurrection took a pee all over that.
That's why we don't count Resurrection. The movie that shall not be named.
Yeah. But
see, that was an instance where the first movie was phenomenal. The second movie was okay, but it had some problems. And then the third movie, like H2O, kind of was so good, it sort of kind of helped smooth over the issues except for the fact that Michael's burning completely and that whatever.
Right.
So this is what I'm hoping for with Ends, that maybe it will be so spectacular. We're going to have to do this conversation next year when it comes out.
1 year from now, we'll mark our calendars. But yeah, I hope they do take a step back and dial it in. And I really, for the love of God, I'm crossing my fingers. Don't kill Lindsay Wallace, and do not kill Jamie Lee Curtis. Do not kill Laurie Strode, Carrie Tate, whatever you want to call her. Don't kill her. So if they do those two things, I'll grudgingly I'll be happy no matter what happens. But.
And the only other thing I was going to say, hopefully, and I don't know what they're going to do for the third, but one thing I would like, and this is something I touched on in my review also, I feel like the whole idiocy with horror movie characters, we've seen that so many times as far as characters doing extremely nonsensical, dumb things. Basically to move the story along. I understand that's a piece of it. We've seen it. I feel like at this point, it's been parody. We've seen Scary Movie and films like that where we're now making fun of it. I mean, commercials even, like where...
right.
But there's a commercial where they're just like, why aren't we going to the running car? No, that's...
Go hide behind the chainsaws.
Right, it's so difficult.
Exactly. And so now that we've kind of like, it's kind of a running joke at this point. And so I think now, because I'll be honest, to me, what's scary to me is when and the thing is, I know in real life people do a lot of dumb things. So I mean,
but not as dumb as what we see in horror movies. Not usually.
Because that whole, as soon as my first realization was the whole scene with the caretaker and the husband. We you see this man getting killed. You run to unlock the door. You have the ability to open the door and go out, but you turn around and scream and beg and cry while this man impales you through your throat. I was just like,
right.
That's not just, that's not just, oh, I made a mistake. That's like, you obviously wanted to die because you could have just ran out the door. And so, and the thing for me, what's scary is that when I've taken precautions, when I've had my game plan, or I've basically made the best possible steps to escape and to get out of the situation, and I still end up in it. And someone still pops up, or someone still gets me. That's what's scary. The fact that I can do everything that's right. Yeah. And then, here we go.
Right.
And it also lends itself to maybe what makes Michael Myers, or even other horror figures, scary. But yeah, it's just like, then here you still are. And I wish if we can do here or there, dumb characters, because that happen. But I think that, like, can we leave room for characters that are intelligent and do things that are on a basic level, sensical? And then when Mike, hits the scene, then it's like, oh, well, that didn't work. And even I even like with 2018. Kind of, because to me it's about now subverting a lot of the cliches and subverting kind of our expectations for what we see in horror. Because one thing that I kind of like, and it kind of depends on where you're approaching it from, but one thing I liked in 2018 is how they had the babysitter and the boy, and they took the whole, there's a monster in my closet.
Oh yeah.
Nothing here, and then and then all that happens. And then the whole piece of Black people dying first in horror movies. We see that and be like, I'm out of here.
That kid was one of the best parts about that whole movie.
Exactly. And so, and it's not just about the survival, but it's just about like taking those two little pieces. And it's like, hey, how can we incorporate that here in a fun way? Because it's possible to do that, but not if you just don't take it seriously, or you just like, hey, let's just go for gore and let's have eyeballs popping out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that reminds me of. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was saying I like, that's one thought that I always had, is when you have what makes it great, as you're touching on, D, is that when you have villains that are clearly smart, and then you have smart characters, but ultimately the villains are always smarter. You get that. That's fine. But it lends so much credibility when you have worthy adversaries that don't do just moronic things. And I was thinking of that movie. It's not Halloween, but have you ever heard of Oculus?
Oh, I haven't seen it, but I know.
Yes, that's directed by the dude that did Midnight Mass.
Yeah, well, with the mirror, right?
Yeah. The mirror shows up in Midnight Mass, by the way. Little Easter
that's pretty cool. So I'll have to check that one out. Actually, I haven't seen that one. But that was always one of the first films I thought that gave so much credibility to me, was that the character, especially the girl there, she had a huge plan. She thought this immensely through, and she was smart. And remember, she knew the mirror's tricks, and when it would try things, she had already anticipated them. And it was like a little game of chess. They're sitting there one-upping each other. And, not to spoil anything, but you can imagine where it goes. But the point was, it lended so much credibility to it. It was like, yeah, this mirror's evil. It's smart. And the characters were smart as well with their anticipation of it. And that just makes it so much cooler. You're watching cat and mouse back and forth. And I really wish that the Halloween movies would kind of dial back into that. The next one I want some smart characters who do smart things, because look at how Laurie set up those traps. She had thought of every freaking thing you could imagine.
It was like Mousetrap. She was with it.
Right. And, unfortunately, didn't really serve a whole lot of purpose. It didn't work in the end. But the point is, you give it A for effort, because you're like, okay, that's what I would have tried. She tried it, and so you don't take anything away from it. But when you see him walk into stupid little things like that, like the one guy said, where, like you were saying with the woman, where she just kept, don't kill me, please don't. And you're like, that's going to work. Right.
Why are you still there? Oh, my goodness. So we got a question here. What do you think of scary movies that have more of a build up until it's hell on earth, like Carrie? That's the type I like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I love Carrie, because because I don't know, like there are so many pieces to it. But what ultimately scared me about Carrie, because yes, you have the infamous or famous prom scene and all that, but one of the scariest scenes for me was at the end when she was embracing. Well, first when her mother was standing behind that door, but then when she she embraced her and she's like, "Well, pray," and then that knife came out of nowhere. She falls, and then Carrie falls down the stairs, and you just see her smiling, like with the knife. And I was like, whew, like that really disturbed me.
Disturbing,
yeah. Just the thought that my life is hell at school, my life is hell in all these aspects, but my biggest hell is at home. Like I've gone through this, but even my home is not a refuge. Like my biggest adversary is right here, and it disturbed me a lot.
That's sad too, but no, that's true. And I gotta say, being a male, the scariest part of Carrie is the menstrual cycle. I'm kidding. I'm joking. It's not scary, but
that inspired the novel though, because I feel like something about how do I create a story here, and it was like, what's the scariest thing? And his wife was like, menstruation. She was like,
especially if you don't know what the heck is going on. Like she did not know.
That was a sad scene to me. Like, I mean, like when she in the shower, and of course, on top of how the other girls were freaking horrible to her, but she was like genuinely terrified, and it's like that just shows you what a little like box she'd been raised in, just hidden from this world. I mean, Carrie's one. I saw it when I was like in middle school, and I felt so bad for her. Like my heart just goes out to this girl, and the comeuppance is great when she starts killing everybody. You're kind of like, good, you had that one coming, and but even though I think she kind of went to a degree where she started killing people who didn't need it, became the monster herself.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I just think that's a good movie. Like you get a heart in there, you get emotion, you get an attachment. I like monsters, or I don't like to call her a monster, but I like people that kind of turn into villains that you understand,
like in Joker.
Products we created and made ourselves, know how we've contributed, to a situation like that, and then we re-examine, how do we treat each other? So
and I was gonna say, and it's still even reinforced that even in death, she has no peace, because when even though I know it's a dream, but still I assume that was some touch of reality where Sue is going to her grave and she sees it says Carrie White burns in hell. So it's like even after all of this, like this girl still like, you guys still are
tormented.
Like that. Yeah. So that one definitely resonated.
Yeah. I didn't realize this. He's saying at the time of Carrie's psychological care just exploded as an industry. That makes sense. This was like an 80. Was it? When did Carrie come out?
It's like late
70s or 80s, late 70s.
It was 77, wasn't it? Or
77? Okay. All right.
I know the sequel was 99, and then
I never saw the sequel, or not the sequel. I never saw the remake. Did you guys see it?
I saw the other two. They did one
with Chloe and
they did a mini series on NBC one time, and then they did one with Chloe Grace Moretz. I saw both of them.
Okay.
I thought the Chloe one was actually, I mean, I just still don't think it was as good as the first one, but I like that they were able to. I thought there were some parts that were more faithful to the novel. That they just budgetarily or limitations or whatever they couldn't do. And I know I was actually thinking about it when you were talking about Carrie, but how, I don't know if you know the history of the 2013 one, but they actually filmed, that movie went through a lot of overhauling and re-editing afterwards, but they originally filmed it akin to how the novel was with the White Commission, if you remember that, where
I don't remember those details.
Where they had, it was basically, a lot of it was being told in kind of like very, whatever an investigative body of the government was taught, the White Commission is what they called it. Okay. But they actually originally filmed the movie structured as that it was people telling it in hindsight, giving testimony in court and so forth. And so that would have been really cool. I would love to have seen that version of it, but I don't know, that was just a rambling thought here. I know you're Carrie, it sounds like you're a fan of the Carrie films and the series, so wanted to see if you'd heard about that or not.
No, you're good. No, they actually they did the mini series, like the TV version. They did it that way. Like you see it like where the coach is mentioning something and this person is mentioning something, and so we're kind of going in and out where they're being asked about what happened, and then we are going back and forth after it's happened, and then to the past, and we're kind of going back and forth. So they did do it in that version.
Okay, cool. Surprisingly, as much as I said I was a Carrie fan, I have not seen the miniseries or the musical, so that's maybe I need to now.
Wait, there's a musical? No.
Yes, there is.
Oh no! Jeez.
They'll make a musical of anything, man. You give them enough time. They're just creative, busybodies. American Psycho, God. They made a musical of. So.
Oh, that's right. I heard about that. Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, have we said all there is to say about Halloween Kills?
I hope. Yeah. I can't think of anything because I keep thinking about bad stuff, and I don't want to keep kicking the dead horse. I'd rather people go see it, let them form their own opinion. But maybe come back to this and see the things we pointed out. They went to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, for you, when you do a review or you give commentary on the film, should the implication already be there? Should the implication already be there that people should go see a film for themselves?
Sometimes I do specifically mention that, like you guys may feel differently than I do. But I'm hoping that, I generally say I'm hoping that when people watch my reviews, they've already seen it, but at the same time, not really, because I do specifically do non-spoilery films. I'm just kind of like saying, this is how I feel. You guys may feel differently. Right. And I don't necessarily ever try to say, don't go see this film, because I feel like people should go judge for themselves. Yeah. Because people have such diverse, people can watch the same movie and come away with two completely or multiple, diverse thoughts about, some people really liked Anthony Michael Hall in there. I thought he didn't do a great job. Some people loved the mob scene. Some people didn't. So some people loved that he was pretty much indestructible and could kill multiple people all at once. A lot of people didn't. So it's just, you're just going to have that because you got people and there's different things that jive with different people.
Right. Yeah, so. I always say that film is very much I've always said that film is very much subjective, and I've learned that especially in my older age about how that works, because I really value everyone's I really do value everyone's opinion. The only reason I ask that is because and like I said, this is fandom specific, but even outside of fandom, I see just certain things that are said and the perception of people who kind of give their opinions and things like that. And I just kind of kept hearing, it's like, you're trying to keep people, people, don't listen to this person, make up your own mind. I'm like, isn't that implied in the review? I don't know where anyone is giving a review and saying you must not go see this film.
And you have to think this way about it. You must think the way I think. Yeah, no. I just watch it and so a lot of times I listen to me, I swear. I stay away from reviews of films I'm highly anticipating because I don't want to potentially be influenced by, let's say somebody doesn't like whatever. I don't want to then go into the film thinking, oh, I'm worried because this might be an issue. It's not for every film. I don't feel that way for every movie, but for some, like for the Halloween, for the Wonder Woman movies, versus super high anticipation films that I have, I do stay away because I don't want to be influenced. Others that I don't necessarily care about, sometimes I get really hyped when I watch reviews.
Right.
And that builds, oh wow, I'm excited to go see it. And then sometimes if there's certain people that don't like a movie, then I'm like, I know for sure I'm gonna like it because you don't like it.
Exactly.
Well, I learned that early on when I was again, this is around the time H2O came out. So maybe that was one of those when I really started becoming a film buff when I was about 12, really started picking up, the movie reviews every Friday to read the weekends. I'd read the show times and the page. I really was into that. That's when my formative years. So maybe I have a deep rooted nostalgia for that, late 90s, early 2000s era of film. But being a horror fan, I would always be so excited to read reviews. And what do you learn really quick being a horror fan? Critics hate your movies. So it's everything, Halloween H2O. I remember Roger Ebert gave that 2 stars. And I remember being just excited. And I'm like, and I remember being kind of pissed off about it. I was like, how dare you? This movie's more than 2 stars. And then he gave Bride of Chucky, which is generally pretty well appreciated for its comic tone. It revived the franchise. It was pretty much toast. And it was kind of a smart film for what it was. He gave that half a star. And you're like, that's not even worth a whole star to you, buddy. You know, so you kind of learned early on that, you know, I lost credibility with reading other reviews, and I just quit doing it. I quit reading reviews as a kid, because I was like, as a horror fan, I learned pretty quickly that I'm not going to mesh with a lot of the stuff. And then, you know, of course, I have no illusions that a lot of these horror movies are particularly highbrow, I should say. I know what they are, you know, but I can't deny that. For whatever reason, it's got its hooks in me, and I'm a huge horror fan, and I love the heck out of them. I'll watch Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 before I'll watch Citizen Kane. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I'm the same way, and I can't explain. It's really strange because I don't know why. I don't understand why, like, for me, why I like horror so much. Like, it's so funny because my husband, he likes chick flicks and silly comedies. And I'm like, give me Terminator 2 and Michael Myers any day over a movie like that. And I don't know why. Like, Michael Myers, he petrifies me. I don't know if it's because, like, I don't know. I've always loved stories, and I've always loved stories that are very suspenseful and get you. And so you're typically not going to see that in, like, let's say, a character drama or, you know, a comedy. I like this buildup of tension, and then with the culmination of everything, and then the release, it's all done. There's something about that really appeals to me. And even though most horror films are terrible, I'll still watch them. I don't care. You know, have you guys seen *Malignant*?
No.
Oh no.
He didn't have to say a word.
He doesn't like it. I like *Malignant*.
No. I actually haven't seen it. It's like when you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, because I thought about this big, like, divide and this big conversation about it. Like, I have, you know, a lot of, you know, YouTube friends who are, you know, reviewers, and it's just like, it is like the biggest divide ever. Like, people are like, this is horrible. Some people said this is fantastic. Like, this is ingenious. This is like, but it's never like, oh, it's like either this is garbage,
love or hate. I know.
Like, you know, brilliance. So
So
I've seen that too. Also, that response, the polarity.
There's definitely some divisiveness about *Malignant*. So I went into it not expecting that it was going to be. I'm like, okay, there's all this divisiveness. It's James Wan, and there's all this divisiveness. And let me just see. I probably won't like it because it's going to be your typical. And then I watched it, and it starts off like kind of cheesy, corny, a little bit silly. And I thought, what? Okay, this is just going to be your typical, this is James Wan, really? What? And then it continues on, and then this twist happens, and you're like, oh, okay, it all makes sense now. I love this movie. So some people hated that twist, but for some reason, I just really enjoyed that film. So if you ever get a chance to see it and do a review, please let me know you've done a review. I mean, I do check your channel. Like pretty regularly. I was checking to see if you had your Halloween review up yet. But I'm curious to see what you think. And don't go into it expecting that you will like it, because you might not. You might hate it like some people. But it's different. I think maybe some people didn't like it because they went in expecting it to be a Conjuring type of movie. And it's not that at all. But there's some weirdness. Like, I'm watching it and I'm curious. So who plays the part of Gabriel? Like, Gabriel's like the baddie in here.
Yeah.
Who plays the part of Gabriel? And I looked it up. Don't look it up, because then you may start to think like I did. So I looked. No, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying.
No.
So I looked it up and I saw who's playing the part of Gabriel, and I was getting really, really confused. I'm like, wait, what? That makes no sense at all. I don't understand. And so the whole time I'm trying to figure out, why is this particular actor playing this character? I do not get it. And then when the twist happens, I totally got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just quite, I don't know. I have a fondness for that movie, and I guess I can see why it's so divisive. But I don't know. This is something else I want to talk about with people, and not enough people have seen it. Yeah. But also Midnight Mass. Speaking of Midnight Mass, have you seen Hush?
Oh yeah, the one, is it with the woman who's deaf?
Yes. Right.
Yes.
That's okay.
I watched a bunch of my friends one time, and everybody was traumatized.
So here's a cool little Easter egg. This is one of the things that makes Midnight Mass so special to me. So it's done by the same guy, the same director, Mike Flanagan, and his wife, Katie Siegel. She's the one who played the deaf woman in Hush.
Oh, okay.
And she also played in one of those haunting series that he did on Netflix, because he did Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor.
Right.
And then he did Midnight Mass, and she's in Midnight Mass, and she helps him do a lot of writing.
Oh.
Yeah. So the cool Easter egg about Midnight Mass. In Hush, the deaf girl is an author. Okay. And the book that she has written, and she's writing a new book, but the book that she has written that I guess like made her big or whatever is Midnight Mass.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool? So this movie, this mini series, Midnight Mass, is the book that character in Hush wrote.
Oh wow! See, I love stuff like that.
It's so cool. Oh, and the mirror from Oculus, like I was saying, shows up like in the background in a scene or two. Cool. Yeah, it's just like I was like, oh my God, I love this. I love Midnight Mass was just another thing that just, and that was one of the things where it just was this slow build up, and then things just
right.
And the lore, they don't mention the word ever of what this is actually about. And I thought that was very clever. You'll know what I'm talking about if you ever, if you get around to being able to watch it. They never mention this word once. When you see what it's about, you're like, oh, it's this. They never say it, but they very creatively tie into it in other ways. And it's just so well done, y'all.
Yeah, I'm actually making my way through it now. And it's one of those.
Oh, what episode are you on?
I am on, if I'm not mistaken, I might be on 4.
Oh, well, then you already know what it's about.
If I'm assuming I'm not on 3, I'll just say at this point the miracle in the church has happened.
Okay.
That's happened, and then I've seen the scene. I'm only using context, but where the guy walks past a building and a door opens.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Have you seen the part about like Israel or Jerusalem yet?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think you're at the end of 3 yet, because it's the end of 3 that you find out what's really going on.
Okay.
Then the end of 4 will shock the absolute Hades out of you.
Okay.
And then the end of 5 will be like, ah!
Okay.
Now, is Katie Siegel the same Peg Bundy?
No.
I know.
Totally different girl.
Yeah, okay. I know the
girl from Hush. They have this. When I saw her name, I was like, oh, he's married to that girl. And then I looked it up. I'm like, oh no, this is a different girl. This is that actress from Hush. And so
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Because when you said that, I'm like, oh, I didn't know she was involved in horror. Oh, never mind.
No, totally different. Speaking of that, Katie Siegel, did you hear she got hit by a vehicle?
I did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about.
Heard she's okay though.
Yes,
hopefully that's the case. So anyway, I'll tell you, horror movies. I'm watching a horror movie right now. Kit couldn't tell you the name of it, but it's on Netflix. That's pretty good. I don't know. There's so many things I want to see, and it's hard to settle on what you actually want to watch.
Yeah, and I always tell my friends, I tell whoever that it was one thing to have video stores and things like that back in the day, or even when we had Redbox. But now that I literally, whenever anyone asks me if I've seen this show or why haven't I seen such and such, I always tell them we have Netflix, we have Hulu. We have Amazon Prime, we have Disney, we have
Shudder.
It's like, and each platform has like hundreds of
I know
of content for you to select from. So I'm like, it's literally like just throwing a dart, and selecting, because it's like there's so much to consume. Which
and you have to be in the right. I mean, I love that too, but at the same time, I feel overwhelmed.
Very.
Like I have to be in the right mood. Well, do I want to see this type of horror, or do I want to see this type of horror, or do I want to see mystery, and sometimes I just don't know what mood I'm in. Yes, I have seen Below. That's the one where the people are in the sub, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure. Yeah, I've seen that at least once all the way through, and then it was playing on Pluto TV recently. So
did you like it?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Have you seen it?
No, I think I know I recognize the name, but I don't remember what it was actually about. So I have to revisit that.
Something's like this haunted submarine.
I remember when it was in theaters. Actually, I never saw it, but I remember it was in theater.
Okay. It's got the same girl that played in The Sixth Sense, right? That's the same girl.
Which one?
The same girl, the girl who played Bruce Willis's wife in The Sixth Sense. I think she plays the female character in Below. Pretty sure that's her.
Donnie Wahlberg?
No. Surprised you don't know this, Derek.
Yeah, I don't, because I haven't seen it. When you said Sixth Sense, like Toni Collette, no, or
no,
Katie
sorry.
Strickland. I didn't know Katie Strickland even had a role.
The girl who played the wife. She was in.
I'm drawing a blank. I'm so sorry. If you would have said Stir of Echoes, I would have known.
Oh yeah, that girl from What About Bob, who does not look her age at all.
No.
Arturo saw The Sixth Sense for the first time in preparation for the 1999 discussion. Oh. He saw The Sixth Sense, and surprisingly, he never knew what the twist was. After all these years of not ever seeing it, he never knew the twist. So I thought that was cool. He was able to appreciate it without going into it knowing already, well, this is the deal. So that was kind of cool.
It's sad that he kept showing up to work every single day and he was dead.
I know. Poor guy. But it was well done. It was just so smart.
No, it was. And that movie is culture defining. I mean, gosh, you think of like the late 99, 2000. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just, you couldn't get away from that thing.
Oh, yeah. So, I remember it making waves when it came out.
I remember all the Blockbuster videos had it like the walls were like covered, the windows with the Sixth Sense poster. And I just remember that. Like, I can still picture it. Like, I can picture specific locations where that happened. That is such a cool place and time for movies, man. Like movie buffs. Yeah. I know all the streaming stuff is here now, and I guess in some ways you have more access to content. In other ways, you can spend a lot of money with subscribing to every freaking thing you can. But and then of course, if you still want DVDs and Blu-rays, you can still go buy those. So it's like you got so many avenues to get whatever you want. But man, those were like the glory days of it all, where it was like a big to-do to go rent a movie and to get, you were like emotionally invested into this, you know what I mean? And you walked through hallways of just movies upon movie. It was like a mecca of movies. You walked in there and it's like, this is my house of worship, and talking about like Suncoast Motion Picture, like you'd go there and it was just everything, movie to movie to movie, things related to movies, toys, posted, whatever, it was just, it was really a cool time. And it's like, now us movie buffs, we don't have a place to go and congregate and find like a tangible YouTube. Place, we got like the internet, YouTube. But
we got YouTube. Oh, and also I've recently started getting more active on Letterboxd. Are you guys on there?
I recently got on there,
yeah.
What is Letterboxd? What is it?
So it's almost like a social media movie site, and you can make lists of movies, and you can rate movies, you can review movies. That's where I made my Halloween list, like the rankings that I have for the different Halloween movies, which I put up on Twitter. And also you can connect with other people. Jim Cummings is on there.
Oh,
so cool. Of course I followed him. But it's just a cool place. Like it's just a good place to keep track of maybe movies you haven't seen or have seen, lists you can create. And I was going back and forth between that and some other site that's very similar, but this one seems so much more functional, and you can integrate it really well with like Twitter. Oh. And are you on Twitter, D? I don't remember. You are. Okay. All right. I need to follow you on there. So
this is kind of like how IMDb used to be, like, 5-6 years ago, where they had forums and lists and you could make your own username and connect. Is that kind of like what Letterboxd is in a way?
I don't know if they have forums.
Yeah.
But you can make lists and you can review your movies and people can comment, I guess, on your reviews and stuff.
That's how IMDb used to kind of be, where you could engage with people and send.
I remember the forums, yeah.
And make lists and write reviews. And then, no, they claimed it was like misogyny or something. They had to get rid of it or whatever, some goofy little thing. But it was like, that was a cool place. And it was frustrating because a lot of us had reviews and things and lists we made and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then they just wiped them all out. And they'd been there for like 10, 15 years. And they just erased them with the flick of a switch. And it's like, still reeling from that one. But yeah, Letterboxd sounds cool. Like that would seem like legit. Like it. I bet a lot your average person, that's how you can kind of weed out real movie buffs, is like if they know what Letterbox even is. Because if you remember, they used to call Letterbox, and then then they started saying widescreen, even though they're different. But most people didn't even know that you had to go pay like super premium to get a VHS that was in Letterbox or a widescreen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that, but they used to have to.
Didn't remember that.
I special ordered Halloween 2 from Suncoast when I was like 12 in widescreen, and it was like I paid like $20 for that VHS back in the late 90s.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember my mom when Titanic came out. I remember specifically they had the 2 columns, and one was full screen and one was widescreen.
I remember that being separate. Like you could get the separate DVDs. That was the first time I paid attention to it. I didn't realize it was also on VHS.
Oh yeah,
no, about the DVD stuff.
And they had widescreen and Letterbox, and they were both in equal amounts. And that was probably, I think, probably the first time that your average kind of layman got their feet wet, knowing that there were differences. Because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I hate it when they put the black bars on the, you know."
Yeah.
And then, oh, you mean widescreen Letterbox, blah blah blah. So, yeah, Titanic was probably a moment where people kind of became aware of that, and then now I think it's pretty standard. I think I don't even know if they do pan and scan a lot of times anymore on stuff.
I don't.
Most of
if they do, it might just be for like retro type, or like to try. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I remember even DVDs when they first came out, they'd still say pan. And remember when they put pan and scan on one side, and then you'd flip it over widescreen on the original ones. And old. Yep. I can't remember the last time I've actually had to. Oh, which side is which? I can't remember.
Flip them over, right? Yeah. Jeez, y'all, we're getting old.
I know. Oh gosh, yeah.
No, you guys are still young, both of you guys.
Thank you.
Well, this was fun. I think at this point, I could continue to talk for hours, but I think we kind of run out of talking about Halloween Kills. So
yeah, we've left the topic for.
I know. I'm going to end the broadcast, and you can hang around for a little bit. Like poor Colin, when I ended the broadcast on one of our last streams, he thought that I was cutting everybody off, so he left. But I had wanted to talk a little bit behind the scenes, and he was gone. Okay, I'm going to hit end broadcast. Thank you to anybody and everybody who showed up and left comments, and this was fun, and I look forward to doing it next year.
Okay, see you later.